Welcome into noon till whenever. Hot topics, current events, trends, whatever it is that people are talking about. That's what we give you here. Non-divisive, non-political, sometimes a little political, sometimes, but not, look, I'm not one of these guys, right? I'm not one of these like, you got to be you got to think like I do. I'm not one of these guys. I don't give a shit what you think. I know that the things that I think are the things that I think because I've considered them, and that works for me. So we don't do that stuff. We don't do the divisive shit. We do divisive stuff, though. I probably shouldn't say we don't do any, because, there's lots of stuff to get divisive about. Any Cub fans out there, you people suck. Any Green Bay Packer fans out there, you people suck. Any Philadelphia Eagle fans out there, you people suck. So we can be divisive, just not in that boring old way that everybody seems to want to be divisive nowadays. What color baseball cap do you have on? Yeah, I don't want to get into that. That's not what we do here. Here's how it works, though. We promise to give you all the things that are trending, all the hot topics, all the current events, all the headlines, whatever it is that people are buzzing about that isn't necessarily political in nature. We give you all of that. But before we do, we like to give you a nice little background on what this day is. We try to get you prepared for what to expect in the coming hours. This is a day that has lived on throughout history, and we like to explore that a little bit. So section 1 of this show, we like to call Erstwhile on This Day. We go back in history. We talk about all the things that happened on this day, the events that shaped our perception of what this day is, this day being May the 31st, the final day of May. And like I say, we look for rhythms. We look for things that may have happened. Oh, the same thing happened in 1750 as happened in 1912. That's interesting. And again in 1972. Oh, hold on. All right. Buffalo is on the stream. Does this need to be off the stream?
No, I was actually calling to make sure that you.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
I said I was calling to make sure that your stream was working.
Oh, well, all you have to do is put on YouTube, man. You didn't have to call in the middle of the show. Just put on YouTube. See if it's there.
Well, you were the one who said you were tired of dealing with it. So I figured I would check to see if you were on the air. Have you figured it out?
Apparently it's working fine. Yeah, I appreciate it. But yeah, everything's good. Everything's good, and we should be a full go for tonight.
Okay.
All
righty.
You want to hang out for a while? We're going to talk about the history of the day. You can pop in. You can be my co-host on the noon show if you're not doing anything. But unfortunately, Emil has a million things to do. Want to hang out?
I'll hang out for a minute. Go ahead. What do you got?
No. Go ahead.
Interest me. Go ahead. I'm interested.
Yes.
You just invited me.
But we're not
interested. Now, go ahead, damn it.
All right. I invited you. Go up to your computer and I'll send you a link and you'll pop on like a normal person. Or do you just want to sit on the phone?
Oh, you want me to pop on like a normal person? That means I would have to change my shirt. All right. I'll be there in a minute. Bye.
All right. Look at that. We've got a very special high noon show. Emil's going to be joining us. That's very exciting. All right. Now I just need to send him a link. Hold on. That'll be fun. Look, wanted to get into this. So I'll get into this before he shows up. Hold on. How do I do this now? Let me figure out how to bring old E in for a very special edition of the High Noon Show. E typically joins us at night. We do a second stream, Pugs and Parker with Key and E, although Key doesn't show up much anymore. That's unfortunate. We do that at 9:00 right here on the radiomisfits.com right here. Hold on, I got to do this. I'm sorry. I can't do two things at once. I'm not really good at that. So what he was referring to is that we had an incident last night. I had an incident last night. I had a bit of a breakdown moments before we were set to go on. I'm very actually not much. I don't like to do it, but I have mentioned that sometimes I get a little blue. I get the blahs, and sometimes that changes my personality, and sometimes it just makes it difficult for me to be around anybody. And I kind of telegraphed this yesterday. I was talking yesterday during the noon show about how I really needed this weekend of seclusion. It was like a weekend where I just needed to be alone in my head. And, look, these are all ways that I've dealt with my depression for years and years. Whether it's sleeping 12 hours a day, because the more you sleep, the less you have to deal with all the horrible stuff that's going on in your life, real or imagined, and that's very important, real or imagined. But the bottom line is that I've been very stressed out recently, extremely stressed out. Like got to make some monumental decisions about stuff here in the next, I don't know, a couple of months, weeks, probably. So I cracked. I cracked. It just all became way too much for me. And I snapped yesterday. I didn't snap. Like, it wasn't like running down the streets with pots and pans. I just got very angry. And see, the way I snap is I don't get physical. We don't get into a screaming match. I don't go, I don't lose my mind. I'm not crazy. But what I do is I get very curt and very short with people and very snippy, and then I disappear. Boom, and I'm gone. And that's kind of what happened last night. Last night, I just went at about 9:10 after dealing with these things. And these problems are nobody. By the way, the chat room is completely, I know I'm looking at these numbers in the chat room. It's because we don't have any of James's stuff. We don't have, the chat room numbers are very, very low today. I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix that. I'm used to seeing different numbers in the chat rooms, but that was one of the things that was fixed last night. Okay. Last night, there were apparently a bunch of James's Facebook pages and stuff like that were getting in the way. And so they're gone. And that's why the chat room is so freaking tiny right now. Who are we missing from the chat room? We're missing like all of James's people. We're missing all of those links. Oh, man. Anyway, that's what was going on last night. We were having issues, and now, seriously, we got 11 people in the chat room. We usually have 30 at this point. Let's bring in. All right, why not? Come on in, E. I'm just obsessing over the fact that we've only got half the audience that we normally do because we had to eliminate half of our social channels. So now we've got I don't know. How are you today, E?
Well, I'm fine. I'm just trying to check in on you. You seem to be pretty stressed last night about the inability to connect. And so I was like, well, that sucks.
Yeah, I've got to apologize to everybody. I shouldn't allow my own weaknesses to James showed up. James showed up late, but he showed up. He was there at 20 after. Ed's yelling at me on the phone for just stuff that's just so not in my control. We woke him up. We do that. We put Ed under a lot of stress. We ask him for everything. He's expected to drop everything. Whenever we have a problem, oh my God, call Ed, right? And we expect Ed to pick up and be there. And, last night, it was 9:00, but he was asleep, which I didn't think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality of it is right now, a lot of people are going through a lot of things. We don't have COVID anymore, thank God. But, a lot of people are stressed out in ways and trying to get things resituated, reorganized, more efficient, better use of their time. All kinds of things are changing right now. And, it's stressful. But I will say, as somebody who is part of the team, I think we all are managing it well. And I see us progressing. And so let's just kind of take it as, it's one day at a time right now.
Look at that attitude. That's what you need. That's what you need, coach. Little Friday night lights, full heart, clear eyes, can't lose type attitude out of E. Thank you for that. You're absolutely right. As simply and as dryly as you put it. This whole freaking thing, from the moment you slide out of your mama's water slide, this whole thing is a gamble. And it's just a nonstop onslaught of bullshit. Now you're indemnified from a lot of that stuff until you turn about 16, 17 years old. But right around then is when you start to realize that this is a freaking grind. And by this, I mean life. It's a grind. And a lot of us quit. Not all of us. Some of us quit. Got to keep going. That's exactly what he's just got. You know what? You know what happened this morning? Your stupid dog, who I love. I call her stupid dog, who I
Now
love.
that's one that I wish would quit.
No.
I just wish she would voluntarily just quit.
It'd be nice if she was 14. Wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be nice if she was just like an elderly dog?
I don't know. Something is just mentally off with her. I love her to death. And she's lovable to death.
Oh,
but
she is. She's
she
the most
just has
affectionate dog.
she just has a side of her that is very strong-willed.
Wild animal. She's got a wild animal streak in her that I don't know if she's got some coyote in her. I don't know what's in her, but she's got some wild animal. Anyway, 7:15 this morning. Normally she wakes me up around 8:15, 8:30 or so. But our pool guy, who's wonderful, he's pool guy who comes over here on Monday. He's awesome. This new pool guy.
Really? The new guy's good? Good.
New guy's great, man. The new guy gets in and out really quick. He always does a good job. He's friendly. Not that the other people weren't friendly.
Yeah. I mean, no, the other guy was cool.
Yeah. No,
all of them. I've got to say. I've done nothing to like research it. It's just like ones come after the next one, after the next one. I'm just like, hey, cool. You
clean a pool? I got one for you. That's pretty much it. That's
I've done zero. I've like I've thrown that to the wind.
So pool guy shows up at he doesn't show up, but he texts me at like 7:30 this morning, which is great because he's got to text me before he shows up so that I can make sure that the doggy doors are in, because the dog will eat the pool guy. As nice as he is, the dog does not recognize his niceness. So the dog will. So I woke up at 7:15 to let the dog out first, right? Because I'm like, okay, you got to go. You've been in your bed all night, whatever. Just go outside, go to the bathroom. She wouldn't go to the bathroom. 7:15. You know what she did? She walked out in the backyard. She laid on the deck in the sun and just started like a zoo animal.
Oh, yeah. She loves to do that.
It's 7:15. I'm thinking I got another hour. I can go back in bed for an hour if she will just go to the bathroom. So she wouldn't go to the bathroom. So now it's 7:20. I'm in your backyard in my tidy whities, and I'm screaming at this dog to get up and do something.
I might have to get a Ring camera over there. This might make for some like social media.
It's quite a show. So I've been up forever. The pool looks great. The dog is now sleeping here.
Awesome. Well, why don't you go take yourself a dip in the pool?
Yeah.
Yeah. You and
Not a
Mace
big swimmer. Not a big swimmer.
I know.
I have the body for a swimmer, even if it's in your own private backyard. It's just, you're right. A nice dip in the pool will be good. Someone's got to use that pool because it's a beautiful pool.
Go do yourself your run. What happened to the Pugs jog?
Did that this morning, 8:30 with the dog.
All right, so then just dive in the pool. You come back, you dive in the pool, feel all refreshed, maybe get a lap or two in.
That's a fantastic idea. And, I have done that, but that's typically something that I'll utilize in the June, July, August months after a run. You're right. I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't gotten to the point where I come back and just dive right in.
Yeah. Which is I used to love that, thinking about because I'm such the runner.
Right. Yes. Well, me too. My runs, because now they include this dog. My runs are more jog for like 30 feet. Come on, pull the dog, because she's always trying to sniff something. She always wants. She's not a good running companion. She's constantly stopping.
She's sniffing the whole way. It's just anyway.
All right, we're going to get into what we do here on the High Noon Show. You want to just hang and bang?
I'll hang out for a little bit, see what you got to offer to happening today.
All right, let's get started. It is the High Noon Show for the 31st day of May. That's right, it's May. It's the final day of May. There are 151 days remaining in the year. There are 151 days in the year. 214 days remaining until the end of the year. So as we like to say around here, get those New Year's Eve plans started. First thing we do here, because I know you haven't been around in a while, we like to do a little segment that we call Erstwhile on This Day. This is previously on this day. Previously on May 31st. Things that have occurred on this day that may shape the coming hours. Things that have happened. Maybe there are things that happen all the time on this day. Tornado outbreaks. Seasonal stuff always happens. Plane crashes. How about weird stuff? That's what we explore. We call it Erstwhile on This Day.
You had me at the E. Erstwhile.
On this day in 455, that's right, we're going all the way back. We typically don't go back this far, but on this day in 455, Petronius Maximus is stoned to death by an angry mob while fleeing Rome. Now, do you know who Petronius Maximus was?
I think he sponsors like Formula One cars.
That is true. Petronas, yes, absolutely. One of the largest sponsors of Formula One, Mercedes, in fact.
Back in
No,
1450, were they rolling the rocks?
well, this was 455.
Oh,
So
450.
take 1,000 years off that. He was a usurper Caesar. He tried to take over Rome and he only lasted a couple of months, and he snuck out in the middle of the night, like alone by himself. This is the Roman emperor. Shit's going so bad. He snuck out in the middle of the night to try and escape Rome, and he got caught by one of his guards who turned on him, and they chased him down the streets and they stoned him to death. That's how a dictator goes down.
Very Gaddafi-like.
That's right. On this day in 1859, the clock tower at the House of Parliament, which houses Big Ben, starts keeping time for the very first time. You ever seen Big Benny?
Never.
Pretty impressive.
In person, I have not.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I was standing there on the London Bridge. We were walking across as 5 o'clock. I believe it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday in London. The week of Christmas. We were over there. It was the week of Christmas week. 5 o'clock, London Bridge. Sun is all of a sudden gong, gong. And you look up and you see that top. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. That's, it's like a world thing.
Never been to England.
You've been everywhere. You've never been to England?
Nope. Italy, England, never that way.
You've never been to
that
Italy?
direction.
Don't
Nope.
you need to go to Italy?
I probably do need to go when I don't weigh as much as I do.
Oh, you don't? Jesus, my God. What do you mean weigh as much?
I want to go when I'm like not this heavy.
Here's what you got to do. You got to have a plan the way I got a plan.
All right.
Okay? So I'm taking my kid to Ireland. Now I'm going to wait until he's like 17, 18. I'm thinking maybe high school graduation. I think you need to do that with Dom.
I'm sensing there's alcohol already in this trip.
18, yeah. If he's 18, I'm thinking maybe we can drink a little bit in Ireland.
Well, you said Ireland, and then you said waiting till he gets to close to the drinking age. I'm already like thinking somewhere you've got alcohol planned in this thing.
Well, look, me and him at 14, 15 can have a great time in Ireland. It's sightseeing. It's just sightseeing. Me and him at 18, there might be more things for us to do as a father and son. You know what I mean?
I've never been. Enlighten me. What things would you do?
In Ireland?
Yeah. Drink?
You go from your bar hop. It's one giant pub crawl. The entire country is one giant pub crawl if you choose to do it that way. However, you can also, it's a beautiful country. The Ring of Kerry, Galway, you can travel.
Do they have an Amsterdam-like section?
I don't know. That's a good I don't know if weed is legal in Ireland. I have no idea. That's a good question. We'll get into that, by the way. Another state has legalized marijuana with the stroke of a governor's pen. Did that yesterday. We'll talk about in trends. Coming up on this day, that was on this day in 1859, the House of Parliament, Big Ben. On this day in 1921, here's one we got to spend a moment on. We're going to talk about this. This is some American history here that on this day in 1921, well, here's, this is a good example because I've brought E in here cold, right? So he has no idea what we're talking about. So let's use E as the typical American. Okay. Well, he's not a typical American.
Poor America.
Yeah, whatever. If you know E, he's not typical. But E, on this day in 1921, the Tulsa Race Massacre occurred. Now you are a citizen of Oklahoma to some degree. You have some stripes in that state, and you're just outside Tulsa. Do you know what happened? Do you know what the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre was?
Was it when there was a wealthy part in Tulsa that was all black and it was wiped out by the American government? I guess.
No, white racists, white Oklahoma racists. The government really didn't have anything to do with it. It was just the white people who didn't like the black people having money, so they burned the town down. That's basically it.
But I thought they had brought in some like private military-esque,
I think that might be
equipment and things like that, or is that part of the folklore?
Here's the problem with the Tulsa Massacre, which occurred on this day in 1921. It was a huge, huge event that was not covered at all. We were never taught about it in school. American public schools don't teach about it. It's not something that ever happened. So consequently, what has happened here is people have only become aware of the Tulsa race riots within the last couple of years. And oddly enough, it has a lot to do with superhero comics. It has a lot to do with The Watchmen. The Watchmen, the superhero comic book, The Watchmen, takes place, or the origin story there is the 1921 Tulsa riot. And when that story was told in comic books about 25, 30 years ago, it was literally the first time most people had ever heard of this incident. 1921, the Tulsa Race Massacre, also known as the Tulsa Race Riot or the Black Wall Street Massacre, was a 2-day-long white supremacist terrorist massacre that took place between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, when mobs of white residents, some of whom had been appointed as deputies and armed by city government officials. Is that what you were talking about? Maybe that's
city government. Yeah, I thought it was basically in that particular part of the country, the racists had been appointed to government, and they used government type and I think military to bomb the town.
Yeah, I don't know if in 1920. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Unfortunately, I never learned this in school, so I've had to piecemeal this together over the last.
Well, and I never did either, and I thought that was if that in fact happened, like if we used our own planes on citizens of this country. Wow. Like, really?
Well, here, let's see what the official notes on this are. Took place between May 31st and June 1st when mobs of white residents, some of whom had been appointed as deputies and armed by city government officials, attacked black residents and destroyed homes and businesses of the Greenwood district in Tulsa. The event is considered one of the worst incidents of racial violence in history. The attackers burned and destroyed more than 35 square blocks of the neighborhood. At the time, one of the wealthiest black communities in the entire United States, colloquially, I can't say that word. It's too many L's. Colloquially known as Black Wall Street. More than 800 people were admitted to hospitals. As many as 6,000 black residents of Tulsa were interned in jails. So they just put all the black people in jails? Jeez.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma Bureau of Vital Statistics officially recorded only 36 dead. The 2001 Tulsa Reparations Coalition examined the events and identified 39 dead, 26 black, and 13 white. That's not as big of a death count as I think, as I assumed. I thought there'd be a much larger death count.
I thought it was just the devastation to what was such a thriving area for a particular race that seemed like it was intentional.
The massacre began on Memorial Day weekend after a 19-year-old, Dick Rowland, a black shoe shiner, was accused of assaulting Sarah Page, a white 17-year-old elevator operator in a nearby building. It's always that. It seems like all of these things.
Something.
That's what they trump up. After the dust is settled, then they go, well, a black man talked to a white girl, right? That's always the retroactive excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if my son, my son, who's a big comic books guy, and he probably knows about this because he likes The Watchmen, but I wonder if he's learning about this in school. Has this changed now? Is this now something that children are being taught about that occurred in America? Because why wasn't it taught? Why this is look, and this is like, now we're bordering on that whole stupid critical race thing and what we're taught and what we're not taught about our history here in this country. I wasn't taught about the Indians. You weren't either. We were just we were never told. I didn't learn about the Trail of Tears in high school.
I was taught about the Indians.
You were taught a very sanitized
I was taught that there were cowboys and Indians, and I wanted to be a cowboy and kill Indians.
There you go. That's what we were taught. That's how it was. So I'm just wondering if now our kids who are in similar age groups, I wonder if they're being taught now about the Tulsa Race Massacre.
I don't think so.
So the question becomes why?
I mean, I think there's just...
Why doesn't this make the history books?
Because I think, for whatever reason, people have decided, and when I say people, you know, a majority has decided that they have tolerated hearing about this for long enough. And people keep on using it to make
nobody's heard about it ever. What do you mean?
I know this particular incident nobody's heard about ever. And there's probably several more of these that not many people have heard much about ever. But I think that's the whole common thread to it. It's like, okay, yes, we were wrong. Yes, slavery shouldn't have happened. Yes, we are horrible people, blah, 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 blah. But how long do you want us to keep on regurgitating this? And when is it
Wait a second,
going
but
to end?
you've already said that this wasn't talked about. So when you say regurgitating this, what are you talking about? Because this particular
It's the same central theme.
white people being bad to black people. That's it. Right. Okay.
Right.
So that's the reason. Is that a justifiable reason to eliminate something from history?
No.
Of course not. Okay.
No, not at all.
So you support CRT. There you go. As I happen to as well in this situation. Yes.
I mean, I don't think you can remove it.
No, you can't. The good and the bad. That's how we evolve as human beings. If we whitewash, or I guess that's a bad use of that phrase in this particular, but if you whitewash history, you don't learn from the mistakes. You're not, if we need to teach generations and generations and generations to come that what happened in 1921 in Tulsa is not a good thing. It needs to be absorbed by the human spirit. It needs to be recognized by future generations as something to avoid. But if we don't teach it, and if we pretend it never happened, then we're just allowing it to happen again.
And I think you're at that point in time, and weirdly, as a race of humans in the United States, when leading as a democracy is more complicated than it's ever been. I mean, part of the problem with democracy
is that everybody is represented, and we don't like the idea that everyone is represented. So we say we like a democracy, but we really don't want a democracy. Just
right. And so as the world and the color, of the populations change and wax and wane, and more are located in one area than another, and world globalization, kind of all takes place, it's harder and harder to accept the differences that you may have had, as those differences maybe continue to rise in percentage. You know what I mean? It's like, well, Johnny, if we don't really, have to deal with that type, we don't come around them, then, it's not going to affect us every day. So we don't care. But then as the world gets more populated and you get more of a particular type of species that you're not comfortable with, or you don't like, or you don't interchange with, you then get more territorial and more, this has got to be, there can't be girls and boys and it's and theys and he's and she. I mean, it just becomes too universal.
I don't understand what Frank is saying. Frank has a long history of Frank has some very weird views. Frank in the chat room says, I don't want a democracy in the United States. We need a constitutional republic. Well, Frank, those are two completely separate things. A constitutional republic is a form of government. A democracy is the way that government is formed. They're two completely different things. Democracy and a constitutional republic is a form of a democracy. I don't know. This is that crazy right-wing radio that Frank is getting, where they just
I'd like to explore.
Hold on, wait a second. This is the problem with right-wing radio. They say things that sound right and they sound smart, and people in their car are like, "That sounds smart. I'm gonna say." And now I got Frank in the chat room thinking a democracy and a constitutional republic are somehow in the same category of things. They're not. They're not. It's like that argument where people say, we need a businessman to run America. I hate that. I've heard that for years. America is not a for-profit proposition. We do not need a guy who knows how to turn a profit to run a society. It's a society, not a corporation. There are so many of these weird things that people say that I'm just tired of hearing that you need to just call out. We need a businessman. No, a businessman, a corporation is not run the same way that a civilized society is. You don't need a business. You know where you need a businessman? You need a businessman in charge of the financial stuff. That's where you need a businessman, but not as a leader of a society. You need somebody who's a little bit more widely viewed in their own personal view. What I mean, they're looking at the world in a larger sense than just how do we turn a profit. That's the worst thing for a civilization, because now we all just turn on to be worker bees and drones. Anyway, let's move on from this. We're getting way too into the weeds, and we're still only in the erstwhile segment of the show. All right, on this day, and did you have something? I didn't mean to cut you off there. You seemed like you were chomping.
No. I mean, you're talking about something that's, never ever going to be resolved. It's just, it's constantly going to be a battle with any type of government that you have.
All right, and people are always going to
think that I think democracy is the best, personally.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I still will tell you that it's challenged, and I mean, there's not been one particular dynasty that I can think of that has survived. So
not a one. Everything fails. So those of us who are walking around here thinking the United States of America is going to be around in 1,000 years, think again. We're going to fall. We all fall. Are we falling now? That's the question.
Well, I'd like to see it different. I would like to see, maybe this is that time that you need to, as a country, in order to be able to continue to lead as a democracy, figure out how to tame all this down and how not to be so divided, and maybe appreciate the fact that as a country, we allow this individuality. And from there, even though you don't like the other person or you don't see it their way, you can at least respect the fact that they have a right to choose that. And I think that's where we are today. You have to get so divided and so cornered off and so almost to, hey, this is about to explode, before you get to anybody working together. And I think that's, being displayed right now, if we're trying to bring this current with this, debt deal that's getting done.
Yeah.
The fact that we're this close to not paying our obligations as a country because people can't get together to agree that we've agreed that we're going to pay our obligations.
It's like two people are leaving work at the end of the day and neither of them refuses to lock the door. Lock the door.
Right.
No, I'm not going to lock. It's an absurd argument that they're having. They know that they're going to get this deal done, because if they don't,
they don't have a job. They don't have a deal.
Right.
They don't have anything.
Right.
They're done. They're over.
And there is a way, kick the can or whatever. There is a way to do this that has been done for generations, and we're just going to do it again. Now, at some point, probably we're going to have to really address all this, but it ain't going to happen now. And McCarthy, look, I don't want to talk about the debt ceiling because that's pretty much.
Well, but you get what I'm saying. Yes. It's the same thing. We're always going to get to this particular point. We're about to blow this whole thing up, and then somehow we're putting it back together. And I'm sure that was the same thing happening. I don't know. I didn't live there. But in those other countries, in those other leaders, there were times when the guy was getting challenged or their way of doing it was getting challenged, and then they let it subside, and then they let it subside. And then finally there were enough of them that said, hey, this has been going on too damn long. We're tired of hearing your nonsense about, oh, you're going to do it and you're not going to do it, and you're just leading us down the road of insanity, and we're not going to be insane anymore. And
let's wrap this up by talking about Adam. Adam says, teaching about the I think he's talking about the Tulsa race riot. Teaching about the Tulsa race riot isn't CRT. He's absolutely right. It's not. CRT is a specific curriculum created by one person that is problematic. There are some problems with CRT, but teaching history, everything that is an example throughout history, and let's talk about American history. Everything is an example throughout American history of white people being mean to black people. It's not all CRT, okay? Some of it is actually just history, and we have to know this history lest we repeat it. Yeah, E.
Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
If you knew for fact that the Army bombed that area of Tulsa, Greenwood, would that change your opinion of that incident that day?
Absolutely not. If we knew for a fact that the Army had bombed at the United States federal government, yeah, I wouldn't change it at all. We need to know that. We need to know.
No, I'm saying, would it change your like if it just happened and it was a bunch of racist, people that lived in Oklahoma that did that? Okay, that to me would be one thing. If I knew that the military actually put planes in the air.
Yeah, they didn't have them then. So 1921, they weren't bombing from the air yet. But yeah.
Or somehow marched.
Or I guess they had Red Baron type planes. I guess they would drop the bombs out. So I guess you could. Yeah, I was just thinking of the military.
Okay, so, but I mean, I've heard that was, I think, the case.
Yeah, maybe.
But if you heard that,
okay, if I heard that was true, if that was confirmed that the United States military sent Army planes up there and bombed, what
would that change your opinion
that it needs to be taught?
of the degree of severity of racism and how far that had progressed into the actual military?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have. It wouldn't have, because I just, look, everybody was racist back then. White people didn't think that black people were the same as them. Most white people. I mean, it was
where I grew up. I'm just saying where I grew up in 1960 when I was born. So like say 1970. So we're talking what, 40 years different?
Yeah.
There were black neighborhoods that you would not be found in generally. If you were a white person, you had no business in there. And if you showed up as a white person in that black neighborhood, people knew you didn't live there. But I can't think of anywhere where they would have allowed them to bomb that neighborhood.
Well, not as long as television cameras were invented. No, you're right. Not as long as anyone could it became more difficult to do these things as technology allowed for us to document these sorts of things. So, but 1921, your question is, does that change my mind if it turns out that the federal government was involved in the Tulsa race massacre? Would it change my mind on it needing to be taught? No, it would mean more. We need to know what our government has done in the past. We need to be aware of this shit. This is why I got so upset. I talked about this yesterday. When Trump was president, you had all these dummies walking around going, he's the worst president. We've never had a criminal president like this. These are just fucking idiots who don't know history. We have had far worse presidents. We've had murderers elected to the presidency. We just talked yesterday on this show. It was the anniversary of Andrew Jackson murdering a man before he became president. So people don't know history. That's the problem. People need to know history, because if you know history, you have, I think, a better chance of getting the present right. And that's all it is.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Erstwhile on this day, here's another one for you. On this day in 2003, Air France retires its fleet of Concorde jets. Did you ever fly in a Concorde?
I did not. My dad did.
Your dad did? Where'd your dad go? Over to England or France or something like that?
Monte Carlo.
What did he say? Was Concorde awesome?
Yes.
What do you think?
Back in the day, I mean, that was like, that was like going to space.
Yeah. What do you think it would be like? So a 1979 Concorde, right? Like when they were first rolled off. So a 1979 Concorde, by today's standards, if we were to like climb into a 1979 Concorde, will we still think, it would look funny, wouldn't it? It would look like when you see like Lost in Space. Like it would be all like,
yeah, it would still have some kind of futuristic kind of feel to it, I believe.
But what they thought the future was going to look like. It was a futuristic. That's why everything in those 60s space shows look funny, because it's what they thought the future was going to look like.
But there is kind of like, the style of house referred to as mid-century modern. There is that, kind of futuristic mid-century
Yeah.
futuristic, you know what I mean, kind of look that's out there. And the Concorde, with the way that it was shaped, with the nose, with the point, and the way that the wings kind of resembled that of almost like a flapper bat, you know, it had some unique flying qualities to it that airplanes didn't have. And then when you found out that, wow, you could go from the US to France in like 2 or 3 hours versus the normal 8 or 9 or whatever it was, it just cut it down to a couple hours. It was like, that was just amazing.
The story of the Concorde is a story that isn't really well known, but the Concorde was destroyed. The Concorde was the company that Air France, it was a teaming between British Airways and Air France. And it was designed to get more people to travel to and from Europe from North America. That was the drawing board. It was, how do we cut the time crossing the Atlantic between between North America and Europe? So when the Brits and the French got together, they were like, yeah, we're going to dominate the American European travel market with this. Who's going to fly anywhere else? So the Concorde rolled out their planes, and immediately United Airlines and American Airlines and even Boeing got involved in basically destroying the Concorde in America. Now, how did they do this? Well, they went to all the congressmen who were representing districts that had airports, and they started lobbying for, you can't have supersonic jets land in here. The boom is going to disturb the waterfowl, or the boom could irritate neighbors. So from coast to coast in America, they passed a law. American Airlines and United Airlines got a law passed that the Concorde could not land anywhere but the East and West Coast. They had to come in over water, which meant you couldn't fly direct from Paris to Chicago O'Hare. You couldn't fly direct. It basically killed the Concorde. And then when the Concorde crashed, one Concorde, and then they went, you know what? It's untenable. We can't compete in North America because they have these laws. Now, what was crazy about, and the reason I know about this was because it was a pretty big story in Chicago, because O'Hare Airport was one of the biggest airports in the world. And when it came down that the Concorde was not going to be allowed to land there, people were like, well, that ain't cool. You know what I mean? We want, and They said it was because of the sonic boom. They said that it was because the plane would create a sonic boom that would cause disturbances to area wildlife. It's always wildlife. That's how they get the people involved. Area wildlife, and then people. However, it was quickly brought up that there is a military base at O'Hare that has gigantic supersonic jets that fly in and out of there all the time for military purposes. So why now are we cutting the Concorde out when we have all kinds of supersonic jets that fly in and out of O'Hare every single day, military planes?
Well, I think the problem becomes, when is the sonic booming too excessive to the environment?
It's not.
And you know, and I don't know the answer to that question, but I could definitely see an airport like Chicago or Atlanta,
DFW,
or, you know, DFW having a problem with bringing the Concorde in.
I don't see the airport having a problem with it. I see the airport wanting it. What I see the problem is American Airlines and United Airlines going, why aren't people flying us to Europe anymore?
Well, sure. I mean, American, in my opinion, was very guilty of that with Southwest.
Right,
you know,
the Wright Amendment, where they tried to strangle Southwest because they were doing business better than the other people, and they were reinventing how people could travel, and the big players didn't like that, so they tried to strangle Southwest for 20 years. I mean, 20 years. Think of what Southwest, think of the exponential growth that Southwest could have enjoyed had they been a full-fledged airline in the 90s. I mean, it's...
Well, yeah, and so yes, when you talk about the Concorde that far back, how the airlines reacted to combat that, and tying this into learning from history, and then essentially American rolls out the same playbook on Southwest by not allowing them to get to the international airport.
Yeah.
You know. And so it's interesting how, with that history, they learned how to play the game, and then brought that here and played the same game from a different position for effectively the same result.
doing business at that level in America is only doable, it seems, if you go into it knowing that it's not a fair playing field. Okay, like we all go into these things. Well, everything is fair. No, nothing is fair.
No.
To be successful in American business, it seems like you have to understand that it's not fair, and you have to figure out a way to get yourself a piece of that unfair pie.
I hate
It's true.
the fact that is true.
Everybody I know that is super rich has done something shady. Something shady at some point.
Well, no, I wouldn't go so far as to go there.
Well, you know more rich people than I do, but in my
I would say the chances that you went straight up the ladder without crossing over anything that could have possibly been illegal or somehow on the fringe is hard, because the way that other people go at ripping off your idea, they go at it in a way where you are the most vulnerable. That's when they'll swoop in and try to take it. And so it's almost like, and I saw this happen to a friend of mine in a different scenario who was a serial entrepreneur. He came up with the pet nail trimming thing, and it was, I think, called Pet-A-Paws or something like that. And he had his own name of it. And he was literally the first one that came out, and they had applied for the patents and this, that, and the other. Well, then Chinese version of it comes out, and it's
wait a second. It was like dog nail trimming stuff.
Yeah.
And he didn't call it pedophile. Come on, pedophile.
No, he called it Pet-A-Paws, which is probably just as bad. But, and so like he had that, and so anyway, the moral of the story was he went through it all the right way in the U.S. for then some Chinese company to see his infomercial and get one of his things and take that to market. Take that to market in this, and then buy an infomercial spot and sell it $20 or $30 underneath what he was selling.
Wait a second. What he was selling a $40 pet clippers?
Or 30, whatever it was, they would just come in.
They'd kill them in the market.
Yeah, retro engineer it, go out and buy the same infomercial time, sell the product.
How infomercial, they could put millions of them in dollar stores across the country and just kill his business. Or just every time.
Correct.
And buy
yeah, I mean, and that's how they go about it. And meanwhile, he's got to fuel the fight with his litigation team and his attorneys against them, and they're getting all the money in the bank that ultimately maybe he'll get a chance to get some of it back from if he succeeds in the legal fight. And the reality of it is, it's just such an ass whipping to do all of that and to stay on top of that and stay on top of, you got to get the files for the Pet-A-Paws, and you got to get the motors, and you got to get the plastic container, because you're now have been stretched from what was your little, I started this business, to, now I got to manufacture 10,000, 20,000. Those are just jobs in themselves. And then you've got to get people in those places that you can trust. And, you hire slow and fire fast, and you just don't have the opportunity to do that. It's just, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to be.
Don't think it's fair. And there is no crying. There is no, that's not fair. That's business. You get chewed up or you get yourself a Learjet. One of the two. All right, let's keep moving. On this day in 2005, Vanity Fair revealed that Mark Felt was Deep Throat. This was a big one. Deep Throat for 30 years. Nobody knew who Deep Throat was. The man who gave Woodward and Bernstein all of the clues that they needed to.
Oh, that wasn't Linda Lovelace?
No. Yes, no, not. Well, interestingly enough, he was named Deep Throat because at the time, Deep Throat, the film, was popular. So the code name that they gave him was after the popular Linda Lovelace porno film of the time, Deep Throat. Mark Felt worked in the White House, and he had information, and he saw what the Washington Post was doing with their stories about the Watergate break-in, and Mark Felt began clandestinely meeting with Bob Woodward in a parking garage. All the President's Men, famously the cigarette smoking guy, right? Very, very in the shadows, telling him. And basically he would meet with him and he wouldn't give him any information, but Woodward would say, okay, so what about, and Deep Throat would say, you should look into that person and where they were last weekend. Like those were the kinds of, tips that Woodward and Bernstein were getting from Mark Felt on his deathbed. Finally came out and said, yeah, it was me. And it's really interesting because in all of those movies that have been made about Watergate, Mark Felt was always depicted as just a guy who worked and now when you go back and watch All the President's Men, you're like, that's Deep Throat. That's the real Deep Throat. Wow. That character who is just a background character. Hey, get Mark Felt in here. And he comes, right? That's the one scene that he gets. And you're like, oh, that guy turned out to be the one. So that's very interesting.
Is he alive?
No, Mark Felt died. This was on his deathbed. He was dying, and he promised that he would never reveal who he was until he was dying. And then he went, hey, by the way, as I check off this plane, I want everyone to know that I am Deep Throat. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. And he scurried off.
I'd have had one more follow-up.
So, well, he hadn't been in office.
I'd ask him if Linda Lovelace ever got to him.
I don't think that. Oh, no, he couldn't even take advantage of it. Think of it. He could, if he had come out in 76 as Deep Throat, he could have had 40 years.
Yeah, but maybe to her, hey, I know a guy that knows your movie better than you do.
Oh, yeah, because you can trust a porn star to keep that quiet. She's going to have the biggest scoop in history.
I don't know.
Maybe she wouldn't realize it, but I bet her suitcase pimp would. Her suitcase pimp would be like, baby, that's some information we could use.
I mean, if you ever saw that movie, you might have been attracted to Linda Lovelace.
Lovelace?
Linda Lovelace.
Yeah, no, the movie Lovelace? Is that what you're talking about?
No, Deep Throat.
Oh, yeah, no, I never saw that movie. Actually, I think I may have seen clips from it. Wasn't it kind of gross? Wasn't it like all gross, hairy?
Yeah, like back in the day, like that was like triple, quadruple porn.
No, thank you.
If you were a kid and you heard about Deep Throat, you're like, what? She did what?
You ever think of your dad or think of your grandpa about how they totally got ripped off on porn? They had they had no good porn. It's like now we got great porn. Now it's like you totally miss out on that.
Well, it was like, what the hell was a stag film?
Right.
Like a stag film, as far as I knew, was like they got some girls together that decided that they would take some nudie photos of them doing something nasty and nudie. And that was the equivalent of what was a porno. And some guy in the neighborhood or in the town had a collection of these because he either went and got them in other towns or pornos. I don't know. It seemed like they were basically stag films were like homegrown pornos.
Yes, and here's the other
that
thing.
You were shown.
Here's the other thing you need to recognize about these. The women who were appearing in these porn films, like let's say a 1965 stag film that you might see down at the Moose Hall, right? A bunch of guys getting the women that you would see, they were the worst women. Like they were just like they weren't even like indicative.
I don't even know.
Time. They were all prostitutes. They were all beaten up. They were all like completely. They've had horrendous lives. These are women who survived the Depression, who are now doing sex on screen in the 1960s. It's just
like
very.
I think the first woman that I remember emerging out of the embers of porn, was Sika.
Seika.
Like,
I worked with Seika.
Or Seika. Or,
Seika.
Yeah,
I know
Seika. Were like
very well. I worked with her. I was her producer for a year. Seika.
Okay. So like she seemed like she had gained, like Linda Lovelace was one. And then it was kind of Seika that kind of took over.
Seika was the first true American porn star. And then that's kind of how she's branded herself. She was the first porn star. Yeah.
Okay.
Marilyn
so like
Chambers, Seika, and maybe Linda Lovelace.
Marilyn, when did Seika start?
Oh God. Oh my God. You know what? This is so funny. I haven't thought about Seika. What was that show called? Oh God, it was a sex show on Saturday night that we did at the Loop. Seika and Ed, where are you? Ed, Ed will probably remember that show. I don't remember what it was called. Hold on, let's find out about Seika. Let's see if she's still alive. By the way, when I worked with Seika, she was probably, you know what? Let's figure out how old she was. Okay, so she was born in 54, so I worked with her in 94, so 40. So Seika was only 40 when I worked with her.
I'm talking like in the 70s, 80s, right?
Dot,
80s.
Dot. That's her real name. Dot. Everyone calls her real name is Dorothea Hundley Patton, but everyone called her Dot. Like you didn't, like, hey Dot, get in here. Like you didn't call her Seika. Her name was Dottie or Dot, which was weird because, you know.
Right.
Let's see. She was born and raised in Radford, Virginia, having, she recalled, a plain and normal childhood with 2 siblings. All right, here's her career. Let's get into Seika's career. Let's find out how Seika became the first porn star. She described her entry into pornographic films following her move from the East Coast to Las Vegas and then to Los Angeles. She said, I had 7 adult bookstores in Virginia and Maryland that I owned. In the back of the stores at that time, you had the movies and she owned, I didn't know that. I didn't know she owned book.
Yeah, she's probably putting her own porn movies in her bookstores.
She eventually adopted.
That was like what Stag Films were.
She got her name Seika from a female blackjack dealer in Las Vegas. Let's see here. Here. Look at this. Other ventures. In 1994, Seika hosted a radio talk show in Chicago called Let's Talk About Sex, Baby. That's what it was called. That's right. I forgot.
There you go.
Called Let's Talk About Sex on Saturday nights on the station 97.9 The Loop. She hosted it for approximately 3 years. In 2005, she moved from Chicago to Kansas City, operating her fan club through her own website. In 2015, she published her autobiography, Inside Seika. Anyway. Let me just say this about Seika. Seika was awesome. Seika was a cool chick. Seika was a lady. You know what I mean? Like you knew of all the things that, because she was before my time, so I wasn't familiar with her as a porn star. I only knew her as like a 40-something-year-old businessman who seemed, she was an alcoholic. I guess she's still alive, so I'm just go out and say it. I thought she was an alcoholic when I was her producer because she was drunk. But then again, the show aired from 10 to 2 a.m. on Saturday night, so you know, maybe she's not a terrible alcoholic. Maybe she's just, you know, a party girl. I don't know. Seika. God, what a blast from the past. All right. Also, on this day in 2000, so that was how did we get into talking about Seika? Oh, because of Deep Throat. Because Mark Felt on this day was revealed as.
See, I'm good for the rabbit hole.
Good. Yeah, we went down a rabbit hole. On this day in 2008, here's one we can talk about a little bit. On this day in 2008, Usain Bolt breaks the world record in the 100-meter sprint. 9.72 seconds. He went 100 meters in 9.72 seconds. Now, we here in America, we don't know what that is. We don't know from meters. We you know, whatever that is. We know 40 times, right? What's your 40 time? That's how we judge you. Usain Bolt, where is it? What is it? Yeah. Usain Bolt claims to have run, are you ready for this? A 4:19 40-yard dash in sweatpants and basketball shoes. Okay. Do you believe that's possible? Usain Bolt. I mean, now we've seen him run, so we know he's fast. But a 4:19 in sweatpants and basketball shoes. He was wearing basketball shoes, and he says he ran a 4:19 unofficial. Now, since he made that announcement years ago, there have been a lot of people who are like, okay, let's do a pay-per-view. Let's really see what your 40 time is. And he hasn't been willing to do it. So people are suspect of that number, that 4:19. He also claimed to Pat McAfee a couple of years ago that he also ran a 4:22, which would also be incredibly good. But let's put that into perspective. So NFL 40 times, right? Let's go through some of the best 40 times. So Usain Bolt claims to have run a 4:19 in sweatpants and basketball shoes, right? So how does that match up? The fastest 40 time in NFL combine history was run by Chris Johnson. Remember Chris Johnson, the Chiefs running back? Ooh, boy, man, that dude could run. So he ran a 4.24. Now, he ran that on his second try, and he ran that after having a warm-up run of 4.24. Now, remember, Usain Bolt claims 4.19 in sweatpants and basketball shoes. Chris Johnson, who's the fastest ever to run a 40 at the NFL Combine, did it in 4.24. Second fastest, somebody named Dree Archer. I don't know who that is, but he's another 4.26. A lot of these guys. Marquise Goodwin. I'm trying to find anybody with names that we might know here.
I know Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah, he's a receiver. He played for the Bears too. Yeah, but he wasn't really any good. He was just fast.
Oh, but he's stupid fast.
Yeah.
Like there aren't many humans faster than Marquise Goodwin.
No. I'm trying to get to some guys that we named. These most of these,
which makes me believe that Usain Bolt could do that.
With the exception of Chris Johnson at number 1, the next 9 fastest 40 times in combine history are from guys we don't know. Marquise John, we mentioned him, but that's the only. There are no big names. Let me see. I'm trying to get to a big name. Who's the first big? No. Yeah, no big names. They're all number 10 fastest 40 time at combine history was run by Kevin Garrett, a cornerback out of SMU. Look at him. Kevin Garrett, SMU quarterback. He ran it in 4.31 seconds back in 2003. So that's number 10. Nowadays, we're looking at guys, guys in the 4, like the top guys, 4.39, 4.4. 4.4 is what they say. Like when you're a burner, when you're just one of the fastest guys in the NFL, they say he's got 4.4 40 time. 4.4 40 is like what you say when you're the fastest guy on the team. You know what I mean? That's so for these guys, 4.31. But Usain Bolt going 100 meters in 9 seconds is pretty freaking impressive.
Oh, I remember when you'd watch him run. You were like,
it was an event. That dude was.
He has
event.
another gear.
Yeah.
Like he just had another gear. It was like crazy.
All right, let's celebrate some birthdays. Today is your birthday. I don't have the rights to the music, so I have to sing it. Born on this day in 1930. Clint Eastwood. It's Clint Eastwood's birthday. All right, E. Now, you're not usually around for these shows, so you don't know how we do this, but it's time for, that's right, say it with me, chat room, Clint Eastwood Draft. This is where we go into the filmography of Clint Eastwood, and we try and draft Clint Eastwood movies in the order of like an NFL draft. So let me begin here. I'm just going to show this to you because I've already put it together. With the first pick in the 2023 Clint Eastwood birthday draft, the Pugs High Noon Report selects with the first overall pick, the good, the bad, the ugly. There you go. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I imagine you sitting around watching Clint Eastwood movies with the old man back in the 70s on late night TV. Probably a thing you guys did. Or were you guys out burying prostitutes? I don't know what you guys did for fun.
I remember Clint Eastwood movies. I remember, what was it? Bronson? What was his name?
Charles Bronson.
I remember those movies. Those were kind of the prevalent too.
Are you telling me that you make no distinction between Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson?
No, I make a distinction, but I think the style of movie is the same.
Well, yeah,
like you play Charles Bronson or you play Clint Eastwood.
Charles Bronson was like the Kirkland Clint Eastwood. He was a little bit lesser, still a big star in his own right. He was Bronson, but still, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I mean, it was it's almost like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
Yeah, okay. All right, with the second pick in the Clint Eastwood draft, the good, the bad, and the ugly is off the board. Dirty Harry. Dirty Harry comes in at number 2. These are the movies he was just describing. 1970s, crazy, violent, and let's be honest about
this. Is the one with the ape, right?
What's that? No.
This is the one with the ape.
Dirty Harry. You think?
No, the gorilla. What's the one with the gorilla?
You are confusing Dirty Harry with Any Which Way But Loose. What is going on with you? What? That is so weird.
Any Which Way But Loose. Didn't he have like a chimp
Yes,
kind of
Clyde.
something?
Right turn, Clyde.
Clyde,
And
yes.
would-
Yeah, right, Clarence
would
Tide.
punch the biker on
Yes.
the. There you go. Jesus Christ.
So that wasn't Dirty
No,
Harry.
Dirty Harry. Dirty. You feel
Yeah,
lucky.
I guess I lost. He just turned into a character in different scenarios. Like he didn't really ever have a character other than he was friggin' Clint Eastwood here, Clint Eastwood there, Clint Eastwood
I
everywhere.
completely disagree with you on that. I think. No, you know what? I don't completely disagree now that I think that through. You're kind of right. Clint Eastwood didn't have a lot of range. He was put in different genres in film, but he was still Clint Eastwood. Like, even though
it was like the Elvis movies.
Yes, or John Wayne. He's always
exactly
same thing.
And that was what all their movies. It wasn't like what the plot was. It was what is Clint Eastwood going to do here.
All right, I'm glad we mentioned that because now with the third pick in the Clint Eastwood movie draft on his birthday, Clint Eastwood celebrating a birthday today. With third pick, I'm going to go for a film where he actually had to act. This was before Dirty Harry. This was before, all of what you just described as the sort of quintessential role. Play Misty for Me. Play Misty for Me comes in at number 3. You ever seen Play Misty for Me?
Nah, I can't think so.
It's such a great movie. Such a great movie. I can tell you that when I was a little kid watching this movie is one of the reasons. I always wanted to be on radio, right? So Play Misty for Me is the story of Clint Eastwood. He plays an overnight radio host who plays the smooth sounds of nighttime for lovers. He's one of these guys, one of these late night. And every night he gets a call from a woman. Play Misty for me. And she wants him to play the song Misty. And it's awesome. She's a psycho. She's a stalker. And it's great. Play Misty for Me. Number 3 in the Clint Eastwood draft. Not playing a Clint Eastwood character. He's playing it's an acting role. So a little bit different. Although we both agree Clint Eastwood played Clint Eastwood in most things. This was a little different for him. Number 4, the number 4 movie in the Clint Eastwood draft. We're going with Right Turn, Clyde. Any Which Way But Loose.
Yep.
Which was, of course, followed up by Any Which Way You Can. He had a little run of movies there where it was Clint Eastwood and the orangutan Clyde.
Yep. He tried to bring the chicken out for his last run.
What came first? I got to know what came first, BJ and the Bear or Any Which Way But Loose, because the concept of a dude who's like a trucker or something, who's cruising around with a monkey, right? Those are two very similar. Who ripped who off? Like, did the people who made Any Which Way But Loose, were they watching BJ and the Bear and went, we got this Clint Eastwood project, we don't know what to do with it, and they went, let's add a monkey, and then all of a sudden it turns into the number 5 pick, the final pick here in the 5-round Clint Eastwood film draft on his birthday. Sudden Impact. Yeah, we're gonna go with Sudden Impact. He made a whole bunch of really cool movies, and look, I know we could have clicked on Clint Eastwood and we could have picked any number of things. I didn't do The Outlaw of Josie Wales. I didn't do Beloved. I didn't do $1 Million Baby. I didn't do El Camino. There are a whole Crime Macho, the movie that you saw.
I don't like that one.
I don't think anybody saw that movie, but I do remember it's his most recent film, Crime Macho.
Gosh, dude. How I even got into that movie was just crazy.
How you did you take your 12-year-old to see Crime Macho?
Yeah. Crime Macho. Oh,
how horrified was he?
He basically, he was laughing the whole way because it was just so
adult.
It was but it was corny. It was like he had this rooster cockfighter, like kind of.
We don't need to break down. We got a lot of birthdays to get to. Clint's only the first one. Born on this day in 1938, ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Paycheck. Johnny Paycheck. Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Johnny Paycheck, one song. He probably had more songs, but that was like the big song, boy. And I remember that song. And my grandpa loved that song. That song would come on and take this job. Johnny Paycheck is one of the. Do you guys know anything about Johnny Paycheck? Okay, so here's what
I remember the song.
Here's what Johnny Paycheck was. Johnny Paycheck was basically retarded. If Johnny Paycheck was a child today, Johnny Paycheck would be in special schools. He would be given. Johnny Paycheck he had so many things wrong with him, like probably inbred, probably had, all kinds of mental issues, drug addict, drinker, in and out of jail. I mean, I challenge you. You show me the worst example of what a modern hip hop punk is, and I will drop down Johnny Paycheck's resume and we'll go point for point on arrest. Johnny Paycheck was one of the biggest troublemakers, losers, beat up every woman he was ever with, was in and out of jail, murdered people, would just do crazy stuff. Johnny Paycheck. You ever want to see a documentary about Johnny Paycheck? Mike Judge, the famous Mike Judge, who did, of course, Beavis and Butthead and Office Space and Silicon Valley, the great Mike Judge. Mike Judge had a show on Cinemax called Tales from the Tour Bus. And it was a documentary show where he would basically explore the lives of outlaw country artists. And the one that he did on Johnny Paycheck will just blow your mind. You're like, how was this guy not in jail for the rest of his life after doing what he did in 1973? No, he got out of it somehow. Anyway, Johnny Paycheck, happy birthday. You're long dead. You were a bad, bad dude. And I don't mean that in bad Leroy Brown. I mean you were just a bad person. Johnny Paycheck was just a broken human. Born on this day in 1943, Sharon Glass. She was Lacey on Cagney and Lacey. She was supposed to be the hot one, but, what are they doing? Born on this day in 1943, Joe Namath, Broadway Joe. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I like you.
I often think,
I won't
kiss you. Struggling, which is his famous Joe Namath. Of course, we're mocking him. He did a sideline interview with Susie Colbert on Monday Night Football during a Jets game once, and he was shit-faced. And he said some things to Susie Colbert, which honestly I thought were charming, but I guess they could be seen as a bit lechy, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, Joe Namath was a Mick Jagger-esque foot quarterback.
Yep. That's freaking great. Joe Namath is to the NFL what Mick Jagger is to rock and roll. That is Joe Namath. That's great.
Right? I mean, he had that kind of
swagger,
man, female savoir-faire, he could just...
Well, he was different.
He wore pantyhose.
He wasn't Johnny Unitas. You have to remember, quarterbacks of this era had buzz cuts and, they went to church and they prayed in the circle and all. And then you get Joe Namath, a kid from Pittsburgh who spent a bunch of years in Alabama, who's now let loose with a big contract in Manhattan.
With long hair hippie.
Yes, long hair. Good looking too. Game.
Yeah.
Joe Namath had game. It wasn't like he was...
for sure. He was more interested in being Broadway Joe than he was being Joe Namath.
But what did he do? He went up against the aforementioned Unitas in the Super Bowl, and they were huge underdogs. And Joe Namath said, No. We're going to win this game. You'll see. Sitting by the pool at the Fontainebleau. Have you ever seen him making this prediction? He's sitting. Joe Namath is surrounded by hot babes. He's at the pool. It's like the Saturday before the Sunday Super Bowl. He's sitting at the pool. He's in his Speedo outfit, and he's laying there, and he's surrounded by press, and he's got two beautiful women on him, and he's like, "Let me tell you something, boys. We're gonna win this game, and you can print that." And of course they did. In the legend of Joe.
I remember the fur coat.
I was just going to say, the fur coat on the sideline with the Rams, when he got traded to the Rams in L.A., Joe Namath would stand on the sideline wearing a full-length fur coat in uniform. Like the way other guys had ponchos that they would put if the weather was cold or something.
He did not.
No, fur coat, full head to tail. Namath was cool. Happy birthday, Joe Namath. Is he still alive? Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah.
Born on this day in 1948, not still alive. John Bonzo Bonham, Led Zeppelin drummer. Born on, what do you say about Zeppelin? Zeppelin's fine. Born on this day in 1949, Tom Berenger. Boy, I thought he was going to be a big movie star, and then, it didn't really work out for him. Born on this day in 1955, Susie Essman, American actress, comedian, and screenwriter. Susie Essman, of course, Susie Green from Curb Your Enthusiasm. If ever someone was born to play a role, Susie Essman was born to play the wife of Larry's agent on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Here's one for you, E. Tell us all about, born on this day in 1957, tell us all about Jimmy Craig. Jim Craig.
He was a San Francisco 49ers running back.
Oh, God, I threw it to you. I thought you'd know Jimmy Craig.
Jimmy Craig?
Jimmy
No.
Craig.
Roger, that was Roger Craig.
Who was Jimmy Craig? Really? What's your favorite sport?
Football.
Thought it was hockey.
Jimmy Craig. Who's Jimmy Craig in hockey?
I don't know. Miracle on Ice. The goalie.
Oh, the USA, not
goalie
NHL.
for the United States Olympic Miracle on Ice.
Yeah, well, I mean, Olympic hockey is great and all, but it only had one time period.
Right. So Olympic hockey is blah, 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 blah.
72s.
This is not Olympic hockey. This is the Miracle on Ice team. This is a different category. You're right. 99.9% of all other Olympic hockey is garbage, and we don't need to pay attention to it. But that Miracle on Ice team, man, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that was awesome. I remember that.
Jimmy Craig, none of those guys from that team really went on to have big pro careers. Aruzioni didn't have a pro career. Jack O'Callahan is the only guy. I think he had the most successful NHL career of all of those guys. Can you name?
Yeah, I think they did a 30 for 30 on it.
Did they?
They went.
Where are they now?
Something I remember, with the USA, because it was like they were
superstars,
gods. Yeah,
they were the Apollo 11 astronauts. For 2 years, America treated those college hockey players like they were the astronauts who went to the moon. They were treated and then none of them had big pro careers.
Well, and it was at a time too that I think there was more paranoia about Russia being a bigger superpower than we were, or that they were on that path.
Well, it was the Cold War. Yeah, they were the other.
And I think as a kid, you grew up and you actually did kind of have a little bit of fear for Russia.
Hell yeah, Cold War.
You know what I mean? It was like you as a kid were like, well, if we did go to war, I guess we would go to war with Russia. Now my kid goes, if we did go to war, I guess we would go to war with a handful.
Yeah.
No, you know what I mean? It's like the possible foes of this country when I was a kid were Russia.
Well, that's it. And I hate to say it, we describe it as the Cold War as being a terrible time in this world, but no, actually, during the Cold War, the whole world was kept in check. The whole world was pretty much on their best behavior because there was two sides that had big guns pointed at each other, and everybody else fell in line because they didn't want to, upset the apple cart. What now we have just us, and then a whole bunch of other people. China, I guess, is rising, but don't kid yourself. How is China going to get in China? China can control their little part of the world, okay? But China isn't going to come over here. China is not going to dominate North America. It's not going to happen. Anyway, moving on. Since we don't have this one other bad guy to look at, it's WWE. It's wrestling. There's got to be Hulk Hogan, and then there's got to be the bad guy that Hulk Hogan's wrestles. During the 80s and 70s and 60s, during the Cold War, that was Russia. It was all very understandable. It was good guys, bad guys. Whole rest of the world, choose your team. That was it. We don't have that anymore. Now it's just...
it seems like the events of the day or the events of the week or the month or the year are what creates the roster of potential foes, and nobody was as crazy as they are today. Like there wasn't a Kim Jong-un, that was capable of just going off in his backyard and going, hey, today I'm going to blow off 15 supersonic missiles.
Well, right. I mean, there were only, I think, 3 or 4 nuclear nations at that point. We now have 7 or 8 nuclear nations. So yeah, there were less, and the nuclear nations were divvied up among the superpowers. Like Soviet Union had nuclear weapons, right? So they had theirs. America, we had ours. But then also England and France had them, and England and France were on our team. So that was good. So now 2 of the other ones, they're over with us. But then India got it. And India was like, "Oh, wait a second."
All right, and so I'm gonna take us maybe down a rabbit hole here, but I'm gonna try to stay on topic. It's always seems so hypocritical to me, okay, that as America, we have no problem with guns and people getting as many guns as they want. But when it comes to them getting a nuclear weapon, oh no, that ain't cool.
Well, I can see why. Can't you see why? I mean, I know.
But let's then take
Right.
ourselves out of the nuclear weapon business, okay, and then put ourselves in the gun business and go, wait a minute now. Why doesn't everybody having an M15 or an AR-15, why doesn't everybody having one of those scare you the same way that everybody having a nuclear weapon does? Well, it's the same logic.
It's not, because you can do more widespread instantaneous damage with one nuke than you can with, a bunch of people with
one
guns.
person could kill off a whole community. But in terms of the art of war, okay, if it's, hey, equip this individual with as much ammo as he can and equip this individual with as much ammo as he can and let them go at it, well, that's fine as long as it's guns, but it's not fine if it's a nuclear bomb. Well, I'm sorry, I only have one life. So a guy taking me out or my kid out or my family out with a gun is essentially the same thing as him taking me out with a nuclear bomb.
Look, I'm distracted. We have such a small chat room today. It's a third the size.
Well, they knew I would be here.
No,
That's
it's
why.
not that. It's because we eliminated a whole bunch of channels that invited people to come listen to the show. So,
or maybe they heard I was here.
No. It was all of James's channels. All of James's listeners that would come here during the show, during the noon show, are not here. And I'm getting very depressed looking at the chat room numbers today. So, all right, let's move on. Let's go quickly. We are really, I love having you here, but boy, this show has slowed down. Normally we're like already into the final home stretch of the show. We're still only in birthdays. Born on this day, Chris Elliott, 1960, Man Under the Stairs, David Letterman, very funny. Born on this day, 1961, Leah Thompson, American actress. Howard the Duck. What else was she in? I don't know. She was another thing. She was cute. Born on this day in 1962, E. Corey Hart. What does he wear at night? What is Corey?
Sunglasses.
Born on this day in 1964, Daryl DMC McDaniel. Run DMC. Born on this day in 1965, Brooke Shields. Boy, I bet you had a thing for Brooke Shields back in the day, huh? Brooke Shields.
Blue Lagoon, baby.
Shit. Born on this day in 1976, Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell. There you go. That does your birthdays. Now let's quickly go into the deaths. We call this segment, These Are the People Who've Died. These are the people who died. Do we care? You're going to be the barometer here. You're going to tell us, do we care that this person has died? Now, here's what you have to understand. Before we pass judgment on these individuals who have died, we like to acknowledge two things. One, the world is full of assholes. Is that true or false?
The world is full of
assholes. So right now, if you were to go out on a street, there's probably, you see 100 cars, there's probably at least 10 assholes in those cars, right? There are, the world is filled. We acknowledge the asshole class exists. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we also acknowledge that people die every day, that everybody dies? Every single one of us, asshole or non-asshole, dies. Yes?
Correct.
All right. So that's what we like to do with this death segment. We like to determine whether or not we give a shit that this person died, because we acknowledge that, yes, it's sad they died, but assholes die too. So the first one, dead on this day in 1983. Former heavyweight boxing champion Jack Dempsey. Do we care?
No.
Really? We don't care about Jack Dempsey. All right, boy. Dead on...
I still get steaks.
Does Jack Dempsey have a steakhouse?
Yeah, like ringside.
Isn't that Joe Louis?
No, I think it was Jack Dempsey.
I think you're confusing Joe Louis with Jack Dempsey.
No, on the Tollway Sullivans. There's that Sully Sullivan.
Yeah, but who was that? What are you just naming random?
Wasn't that Jack Dempsey? Wasn't that
Sullivan's? Oh, I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe you're telling me information I don't know.
Ringside,
you
like
might
in
just,
the.
that might just be a
I don't
thing.
know.
I don't know.
Maybe
He
not.
died in 83. He wasn't launching restaurants that are still around today.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Since he's dead, I started to enjoy his steaks. I didn't when he was alive. I didn't
I don't
care.
think they're his steaks. On this day in 1993, we got another one. Honey Tree Evil Eye. Honey Tree Evil Eye died on this day in 1993. Do we care?
I don't even know.
Do we care?
Who that is? So I can't care. No.
We do not care. Just said that he doesn't care that on this day in 1993, Spuds McKenzie died. That's right, Spuds McKenzie, the Bud Light little pit bull dog that America fell in love with. Real name, Honey Tree Evil Eye. That's Spuds McKenzie's real name.
Because of the black eye.
We care. He doesn't, but we do. Dead on this day in 1996, Timothy Leary. Do we care? Do you know who Timothy Leary was? Do we care?
Wouldn't he smoke a lot?
Yeah. Well, LSD. Timothy Leary is, of course, the man who popularized the idea of LSD and taking acid in the 60s. Tune in, turn on, drop out. Timothy Leary became a counterculture leader. Fun fact about Timothy Leary, he's the godfather of actress Winona Ryder, which makes me question how she was raised. But there you go. Do we care? Timothy Leary, the guy who popularized LSD, dead on this day in 96. Do we care? Nope. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Dead on this day in 2012, Orlando Woolridge, American basketball player and coach. Orlando Woolridge stand out for your Notre Dame Fighting Irish back in the 80s with Kelly Tripucka. Oh, my God. Digger Phelps. Oh, what a Notre Dame team that was. Of course, went into the NFL.
And he then Detroit Pistons.
Chicago Bulls, was drafted by my Bulls, then played with the Pistons and the Lakers. Orlando Woolridge, dead on this day. Young. He was only born in 1959. This dude died in his 40s. Orlando Woolridge
went out like Woolworths.
All right, I guess we don't care. If you're making jokes, he's making jokes about the great Orlando Woolridge. Dead on this day in 2013, Gene Stapleton. Gene Stapleton died on this day in 2013. Do we care?
Founder of Staples?
No.
Nope. I don't care.
There you go. He's on record. He does not care about either Spuds McKenzie or Edith Bunker. That's right. He doesn't give a shit about Edith Bunker.
Archie, yes. Edith, she's replaceable.
She's the best. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that does it. That is our segment on deaths. He was hard, man. Typically, I like to mix it up. I like to, just give the I don't cares to the people who are really bad. Not he. He went full metal. He went.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to get me to care because you're on to your next journey when you're dead, I
guess. All right, here we go. Let's talk about some of the things that are...
I got it.
You got to get out?
I got to go.
Yeah, man, there you go. Okay, we're going to get into all of the trending topics. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was E joining us for the first segment here on the show. That was nice. I really appreciate that. That was nice. I'm not in a good spot, so I need a little... That was good. I really appreciate that, him hanging out. All right, let's talk about all the things that are trending, folks, because that's what we do on this show. Here are all the things that have been, making headlines, people buzzing about, trends, hot topics, current events, whatever it is. Let's get into that. Amazon walkout. Did you hear about this? Apparently there's some big walkout that's happening at the Amazon facility. I don't know if it's happening yet, but Amazon workers around the globe are being encouraged to walk out. I don't know what that means for your package delivery. Let's see what's happening here. Amazon employees are planning a walkout at the company's Seattle headquarters in protest of a slew of moves the company made in the past year. According to Amazon employees, okay, all right, here it is. There's a special group. It's the Amazon Employees for Climate Justice, a climate change advocacy group founded by company employees. More than 1,800 members of this Amazon group, a climate change advocacy group founded by the company employees. More than 1,800 employees across the world pledged to walk out, including 870 who work at the Seattle headquarters. I don't know how this, I don't think that these are like distribution centers. Like that's all we care about, right? We don't care about how Marge in marketing at Amazon HQ. You know, we don't really care about her complaints. So let her walk out. Marge, you can walk out. Just don't interrupt the steady flow of package deliveries, because I'm telling you, Amazon is now more important. Is Amazon big? Amazon bigger than FedEx? I mean, I know Amazon, the company, is bigger than FedEx, but like as far as like, do people send anything FedEx anymore? Everything gets sent to Amazon now. Anyway, so fine. If a bunch of people in the corporate offices there in Seattle want to walk out, that's fine. Just don't delay my packages. Amazon, look, I know. Are we supposed to hate Amazon? What's the temperature on Amazon? Are we supposed to hate them? Because I got to be honest, it's a pretty good company. It's a pretty damn good company. The things that they have been able to do to make life easier, man, my friend Ed, he'll order something and it'll be at the front door in an hour and a half. I don't know how they do that. I don't know how Amazon is able to do that. Literally, I've seen him order things and have it delivered the exact same day. It's Amazon. So you know what? As long as we are so dependent, they are our new junk. Amazon is our junk. We need it. Shoot it right into our veins. I'm telling you, you start to interrupt the steady flow of package deliveries to people in this country. Oh, you're going to have a problem. NASA and UFOs are trending. Why is this happening? Well, because as we've been covering here on the show, I've been telling you now for the better part of a year and a half, NASA is starting to take the UFO whole thing seriously. NASA's UFO team is going to be, are they briefing now? I think they are briefing now. NASA's UFO team says over 800 incidents are currently being investigated. Watch live. NASA UFO study team holds public meeting. I'm trying to see what this is. We haven't found life beyond Earth yet, but we are looking. David Sergel, chair of NASA's team studying UAPs, that's unidentified aerial phenomena. That's what we call them now. We don't call them UFOs. You know why? Because weirdos have ruined UFOs. Like, I think I done saw one of them there UFOs and then they put something in my butt. Those people have made putting the letters U, F, and O together, not credible. So we've had to rebrand. So we're rebranding the whole conversation about what's happening out there, if anything is happening out there, because that's the question. It's not something I feel about extraterrestrial life and about the whole UFO thing the exact same way that I feel about religious faith. And there is a part of me that thinks that it's not out of the question that these two things are interconnected. It is not out of the question. And that's kind of something that I believe. I believe. I don't want to go into it. We don't need to talk about it. But my point is this. When it comes to faith, I don't know what I believe. I don't have any absolutes when it comes to faith. A lot of people have absolutes. A lot of people are like, this is absolutely what happens. You die and you go here. And if you're good when you're here, then you go to the good place. And if you're not good here, then you go to the bad place. That seems staggeringly reductive to me. And it seems like exactly the kind of thing that they would come up with to spoon feed people. So that people would go, okay, I believe that. I don't believe that. I'm not that easy. I'm like, that seems a little bit too convenient. Well, that's how I feel about aliens. People are like, there's no such thing as aliens. How do you know? What do you mean there's no such thing? And then there's other people. There are definitely other lives out there. There are other planets. How do you know? And again, that's how I feel about my faith. That's how I feel about religion. That's how I feel about this whole concept of God and all this kind of stuff. We don't know. So just maintain the open mind. Just, figure it out. Maybe over the course of your lifetime, you'll have an epiphany. Maybe at some point you'll be like, oh, I get it now. That's what we searchers are constantly searching for, some sort of answer. So I'm not a weirdo UFO guy. I do believe, I believe something's going on. I don't believe all the conspiracies, but I'm I don't know, but I know what I think. Does that make any sense? Like, you can't say for sure, just like religion. I can't say for sure. But as far as UFOs go, I can't say for sure. But I'm going to UFO church. Like, I may not be going to like faith church. I don't know if it is or if it isn't with the faith church. But I ain't waking up early on Sundays. The UFO thing, I can be more committed to it because it's less of a, commitment. It's, I don't have to wake up every morning at, 9 a.m. on Sundays to go and show that I'm, all about UFOs or UAPs, as we say. The good news about this whole thing is that the governments of the world, and let's not give America credit because America was so late to this. Other governments for years have been like, we really need to talk about some of the stuff our radar's picking up. Can someone from another country maybe come and talk to us about what we saw? Other countries have been doing that for years. And so finally, the United States is like, okay, cat's out of the bag. I guess we got to at least be a little bit serious about this stuff. And that's what's happening. And it's been this new organization, this new group that was created. Well, here it is. David Spergel, chair of NASA's team studying UAPs, is responding to a question on whether NASA has encountered any aliens or extraterrestrial life and what happens to the public if they encounter any. Spergel says that one of NASA's big questions is there life out there? That's it. That's just the question. That's the question you're asking. And you're not a crazy person for asking that question. I, for one, am proud that my government is actually taking these things seriously. All right. That's why NASA and UFOs are trending today. Aspirational whiteness. Woo! You ever heard that before? I've never heard that before, but I read about it today. Where's my guy, Adam Reyna? All right. Adam Reyna's going to have a bunch of hot takes on this topic. Aspirational whiteness. There's a New Yorker piece. New Yorker. Yes, I read the New Yorker. I don't read the New Yorker. Okay. I don't have a copy of the New Yorker. What I do is I read things online. And when something, I link this, I click it, I read it. Just happened to come from the New Yorker. I'm not one of these, I read the New Yorker D-bags. I'm not. They wrote a story about why so many Latinos are white supremacists. And I've been talking about this for a while. The Enrique Torres thing. He is an Afro-Cuban American. Enrique Torres is the leader of the Proud Boys. He's not white. Nick Fuentes, who is a Nazi. He's a far-right white supremacist. Nick Fuentes isn't white. He's Mexican. The guy who shot up Allen, and that's what this New Yorker piece is about. Not entirely about it, but it sort of uses the Allen shooter as a jumping off point. The Allen shooter was a Mexican, and he was a white supremacist. So the New Yorker is talking about this thing that we're seeing, and I'm glad because we're seeing it. I just gave you a whole bunch of examples. We're seeing it of these people who are leading these white supremacist organizations or gangs or groups or whatever, are hosting these shows where they espouse these white supremacist ideologies. These people are all like Latinos. And the New Yorker has written a story about aspirational whiteness as being the reason for this. Crazy. All right, let me give you a little piece of this article because it's fascinating. It says here, on May 6th, a 30-year-old Mexican-American man named Mauricio Garcia shot and killed 8 people at an outlet mall in Allen, Texas. Then he was shot and killed by an off-duty police officer. Because of the white supremacist views the shooter expressed in a diary and online, many were shocked that he was Latino. In fact, Latino white supremacy isn't an oxymoron, and carrying out a premeditated mass shooting in the United States is one of the more American things a Latino could do. Oh, isn't that cute? Look at the New Yorker being snarky about mass shootings. That's cute. The shooter expressed in a diary and online, many were shocked that he was Latino. In fact, Latinos white supremacy is okay. We are only 5 months into 2023, and in that same time, 17,000 people have been killed by guns in this country. Meanwhile, there are more than 60 million Latinos in the United States, and motivated by extremism or a sense of fear, they've bought a lot of guns in the past few years. Goes on to say, what is this? The late political scientist Samuel Huntington fretted over how Mexican immigration was changing the Anglo-Protestant mainstream culture. That sounds racist. He worried that Mexican immigrants weren't assimilating as earlier European immigrants had done. The criteria that can be used to gauge assimilation of an individual, a group, or a generation include language, education, occupation, and income, citizenship, intermarriage, and identity. Huntington believed that the descendants of Mexican immigrants weren't hitting these markers, but he was wrong. Mexican Americans, it turns out, assimilated like others did. They learned English, intermarried, became loyal Americans, and adopted American politics, including its most extreme and violent forms. We don't know a lot about Garcia, but the diary he kept in the years leading up to the shooting made clear his growing persuasion by white power ideology. All right, so what are they saying is the reason for this? George Zimmerman. Okay, so he goes into a whole list of people. George Zimmerman was a Latino. George Zimmerman was like the first one that popped up. But again, I don't think George Zimmerman is the same. George Zimmerman was just a Karen. You know, he was a Karen who got involved. We don't need to break down what that was. But George Zimmerman didn't show up at a mall and start shooting people. So I don't know that George Zimmerman is the same kind of scary guy. I don't even know what George Zimmerman is, other than he's just an oaf who got caught up in a situation that turned crazy political, and then all of a sudden he's now the poster boy for some group that maybe he didn't even want to be a part of, but whatever, he finds himself there. I don't know. A New York Times op-ed focused on the lineage of Latino white supremacists before Mauricio Garcia, including Pete Garcia, a Mexican-American segregationist in Dallas in the 1950s. You guys know who Pete Garcia is? Never heard of him. George Zimmerman, who killed Trayvon Martin in Florida in 2012. Again, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a fair inclusion here. Alex Michael Ramos, who beat a black protester at the 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Enrique Otorio, the Proud Boys leader recently convicted of seditious conspiracy. And Nick Fuentes, a white nationalist live streamer. Most of these Latinos said they were non-white, even though the protests they joined, the groups they belonged to, and the violence they committed defended whiteness. Now, this article goes on and on and on. It's a New Yorker piece, so we could break this apart. But man, I've been talking about this. I don't understand it. I do not understand. Like I always look at, I do not share these views, okay? But when I was a kid, my grandfather, like there was a very strict criteria to you were a white guy. Like Italians were not white guys to my grandfather. Greek people were not white guys to my grandfather. So certainly a Nick Fuentes my grandfather would not look at Nick Fuentes and go, oh, that's a white guy. That's why he's on our team. I mean, it's weird. Now, as I said, I don't subscribe to that. He was a man who was raised in like the 1920s. So, you know, he had a whole different kind of thing. Never moved out of the little neighborhood he lived. Saw the same people his entire life, right? I think he went to Haiti once in the 60s, and that was about the extent of his world travels. But I don't understand this. I don't. But I do understand aspirational whiteness, which is the point of the New Yorker piece. What they're saying is that there are people who have assimilated from other countries into this culture who have been so caught up in the dominant white culture of North America that they now view themselves as being a member of that race to the detriment of their own race and their own people. It's almost like, you know, well, I'd rather get along, joining, if you can't beat them, join them. I don't understand what this is. Adam Reyna, who I knew would get triggered by this. We'll see if he's triggered. He says it's happening the world over in Asia, in South and Central America, and of course here. Adam, I'm sorry, a little bit more context there. What is happening the world over? People of non-white races are taking up arms to defend the white cause, which I just don't get. And we're not arguing, Adam. I don't mean to suggest that. I'm just questioning what you said there. I don't know. I don't get it. It's almost like, okay, so what's the end goal? You want to wipe out all these other people? You want to make this a white country? Who do you think is going to get turned on next? Nick Fuentes? Yeah. Who do you think is going to get turned on next? Enrique Torrio or whatever? Aspirational whiteness. Boy, is that a provocative thing to be trending, huh? Ghislaine Maxwell is also trending today. Ghislaine Maxwell is, of course, the lady who helped Jeffrey Epstein molest all of those kids and all that. Ghislaine Maxwell is in trouble. Apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell in prison got shaken down by a couple of Cuban gang members, and they wanted her commissary card. And now you got to remember, Ghislaine Maxwell, she is the daughter of Sir Robert Maxwell, who is one of the most powerful men in British media, until a controversy and scandal took him down and he lost everything. But Ghislaine Maxwell came from, you watch Succession, she came from that world. Ghislaine Maxwell is basically a broken Shiv Roy, if you're familiar with the Succession reference. That's the world that she comes from. So Ghislaine Maxwell is now in a prison, and she's getting shaken down by a couple of Cuban gang members in this prison that she's in. And they demand her food commissary card. Apparently she's got a card and she can get food and all that stuff. They want all of her money so she can't have anything. So what did Ghislaine Maxwell, who comes from that world, that British proper society world, what does she do? She told on the two Cuban gang members who were shaking her down. They got put in solitary confinement for 47 days. The two Cuban gangbangers who tried to shake down Ghislaine Maxwell for her food commissary money got put in solitary confinement for 47 days. And now word in the prison is that Ghislaine Maxwell is going to die. Couldn't happen to a nicer lady. Look, if this is how it shakes out, that's fine. Although I do want her to talk. Could they torture? Hey, we want her to talk, right? But we can't, as a government or as a municipality or anything, as an administration of the prison system, we cannot advocate torture to get information. But maybe these two Cuban gang members can torture the fuck out of Ghislaine Maxwell, make her speak, make her give up a list of names, and then kill her because she's an absolute piece of garbage. Al Pacino is trending today, folks. Al Pacino's trending because guess who's she's having my baby. Al Pacino is 82 years old. He's 82 years old. 82-year-old man, Al Pacino. Al Pacino's got himself a 28-year-old girlfriend. And can I be honest? We'll show you these pictures. Let's show you some of these pictures. Al Pacino's got a 28-year-old girlfriend. She's 28. He's 82. I got no hatred. Look, if you could pull it off. Look, man, one of the big problems of, getting old for men and women is the idea that, we're not really attracted to people our own age at a certain point. We're just not, because we don't look at ourselves and see the old broken person in the mirror. We think of ourselves in our prime. So when we are looking and scanning for someone to be attracted to, we just naturally go towards someone who fits who we think we are, which is a person in our prime. Al Pacino doesn't know he's 82 years old and looks like a bag of jelly. He doesn't know that. Covered with facial hair. He doesn't know that. He just sees this 28-year-old girl. Let me tell you. Let me tell you something funny. Here's what I realized about Al Pacino's girlfriend, who is now pregnant. She's 8 months pregnant, by the way. He's 82. If he lives to be 102, maybe he'll see, his kid's high school graduation. I don't know. Here's what I realized about this. I'm 53 years old. A baby born today, a little girl being born today, me, 53, hi. A little girl being born today in a hospital. It'd be like me marrying and having a baby with that kid in like 30 years, 28 years. 28 years from now, a baby born today. Look at me, a baby born today. That's so weird. I mean, I get it. Because as I said, Al Pacino doesn't see himself as a gray, gross bag of jelly in a hefty bag. He doesn't see that. He sees Al Pacino. He sees Michael Corleone. When he's thinking of who he is, he's Michael. And who does Michael Corleone deserve? Michael Corleone, era Al Pacino. He deserves this girl. But here, let me show you her. She's really cute. Like, she's a cute girl. Here, this is Al Pacino's 28-year-old girlfriend. Yep. Okay, here we go. We'll show you these pictures. Okay, I don't know why this isn't working, but whatever. Dismiss. I hate these British newspapers. All right, so there you go. We're looking at Al Pacino and his 28-year-old girlfriend. I have to be honest, when I first saw this picture, I thought, because I wasn't aware of the headline, I was just scrolling through and I saw this picture of Al Pacino with this young woman, and I thought, and the headline was Al Pacino to be a father again at 82. And I immediately thought, oh, like 20 years ago, he had a baby. Like he had a baby when he was old. He was like, when he was like 60 something, he had a baby. And everybody was like, oh, Al Pacino's too old to have a baby. And if you remember on Howard Stern, Craig Gass used to do Al Pacino's baby, you know, the character, the new baby that was born. So I saw this picture scrolling, and I just thought that this girl must be the baby that he had 20 years ago. I was like, oh, look at him. That's him with his most recent baby. No, this is Al Pacino's girlfriend. She's 8 months pregnant. She's going to give birth to his kid. She's 53 years younger than Al Pacino. I mean, she's pretty, right? She's a pretty girl. You know what she is? She's plain old pretty. She's plain old pretty. She's Richardson pretty. But here's what I'm getting at. Al, if you're going to be with a 28-year-old, I mean, she looks like she works at the mall. You know, you could be with a 28-year-old, I guess, but there are supermodels out there. Like there are like 28-year-olds that don't look like the girl who helped you with the sweater at the Gap. You know, that's what she just looks, I just think that's a little odd. I guess what I'm saying, Al, if you're going to date someone 53 years younger, maybe not go with a 7. Maybe make it an 11. You're Al Pacino. Splurge a little. It's my advice. It's my advice to Al Pacino. I mean, she's fine. She's fine. She's beautiful. I should be so lucky. Any of us should be so lucky. She's a beautiful young lady. Of course, she's too young for me. She's 28. Apparently not too young for Al Pacino. I don't have Oscars. I think if on this thing, instead of pictures of this old house, if there were Oscars, I think maybe I could pull it off. But no, I don't. I can't pull it off. So there you have it. Good for Al Pacino. 8 months pregnant. He's going to be a father at 82 years old. I'm very confused about this story because honestly, there's a part of me that's like, whatever. He's Al Pacino, man. He can do whatever the hell he wants. He's Al Pacino. He doesn't want to kiss a 65-year-old woman. With all due respect to my 65-year-old friends, Al Pacino don't want to kiss a 65-year-old woman. Al Pacino wants to kiss something that's, you know, reminds him of when he was Al Pacino. Jamie Dimon, he's JP Morgan. He is the guy in charge of JP Morgan. He's one of these evil Wall Street pieces of garbage who says he's going to run for president someday. That's right. So we've got that to look forward to. Holy shit. A guy who should be in jail is instead going to run for president. Jamie Dimon has announced that he has considered and is looking into, at one point in the future, possibly running for, that's right, a whole bunch of qualifiers. But just put that on your radar. The head of Shearson Lee. Again, the country needs a businessman to run it because a country is run for a profit, right? That's the whole, no, stop it. Countries are not run like businesses. Countries are societies. They are not run for profit. They are run for the benefit of society, not for profit. But, you know, go ahead. Somebody's going to throw them. This guy should be in jail, is my whole point. Jamie Dimon is a crook of the highest order, and he skated by for 30 years doing all kinds of bullshit. My friend Tom tell you about Jamie Dimon. I have a friend Tom who used to work for, oh, God. Doesn't know him, but he knows of him. He knows the whole thing. Let's go further. Twitter is trending. Twitter is not trending on Twitter. Twitter is trending on Google, which is interesting. But Twitter and Elon Musk are trending together. Why? Because apparently the worth of Twitter has cratered. Twitter is now apparently worth just 33% of what Elon Musk paid for Twitter. So what is that, 67? So Twitter, in the time that Elon Musk overpaid for this crazy platform that serves absolutely no purpose for him other than, he is a thirsty narcissist. That's 67% he's lost. Now, when you're one of the richest people in the world, and unfortunately, he's not the richest man in the world anymore. Bernard Arnault is currently, and Bezos is coming. Bezos is coming. Here's what the whole Twitter thing was. So Elon Musk, I don't know. Does he drink? Was he drunk? I don't know. At some point, like a couple of years ago, he got on Twitter. He started going, I should just buy this place. And everybody was like, yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. So then he put it out there. And then, he's like, I'm not going to buy Twitter because they ran the numbers and it was really stupid. And then something happened. And then he suddenly got back on Twitter and he's like, I'm going to buy this. It turned out, and then he ended up buying it. Why? Because his ego allowed him. Why? Because he's got a few money. He could afford to pay. What did he pay? 60 billion, 46 billion, 46 billion. It was like worth like 25 billion. And he paid like 46 billion, some crazy amount. He overpaid. He forced the Twitter board of directors to sell to him by making such an obnoxiously large offer that it would have been illegal, would have been tied up in courts for years if the Twitter people had gone, no, we ain't going to take that money from you. So it became sort of an ego thing, and he acquired it. And it's lost 67% of its value since he paid for it just under a year ago. Is this a Elon? No, it's not. He's one of the richest men in the world. He can afford to do this. He didn't give a shit that Twitter has lost 67%. He loves that he's the king of Twitter. He loves that. Of all the other things that he does, I am certain that this dork, and that's what he is. He's a weird nerd dork. He loves that he can sit at his office chair. If I'm Elon Musk, I am not fucking around online. All right. He's hanging out. He's tweeting stuff. I am going to parties. I'm traveling. I'm being with people. I'm going to dinners. Elon Musk is a dork. He's a nerd. He's a weirdo who has been elevated to this position of not only authority, but influence, which is crazy because, again, he's a dork and a weirdo and a nerd. Did you see the last woman he married? Richest man in the world. Did you see that Canadian, weird chick that he was? He's an odd dude is all I'm saying. So for those of you who are running around going, Elon's company lost 6, he doesn't give a shit. You think he cares? Shit, he'll sell Twitter for a loss tomorrow if it starts to become tedious to him. Chris Christie is also trending. Chris Christie, the former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie is set to announce that he will be jumping into the Republican primary season. Now, we like to keep track of these people. We like to keep track of all of these guys who are announcing that they're going to run for president, blah, blah, blah. Now, I always point out that it's a scam, that, the reason people run for president is because there's a way to make a whole lot of money. I should run for president. See, I need a job. You know what my job could be? I could run for president. I could run for president, and then I would have to convince people to fund my presidential run. And then they'd give me all kinds of money because I'll be like, well, it's going to be 2 years of a campaign. So you need to pay me all kinds of money. So I'm going to take all kinds of money. I'm going to create a PAC, right? I'm going to create my own political action committee. And then I'm running for president, but I'm also going to put myself in the big chair of the political action committee. I'm going to appoint myself to be the administrator of this political action committee, which means I'm in charge of all the money, which means I can pay myself a salary, which means I'm going to run for president, but also I'm paying myself $500,000 a year to be the administrator of this political action. That's the scam. You run for president. You can't win. You raise all of this money. The money goes into your PAC. The money goes in to support your run. Then once you're ready to pull the ripcord, you announce, I'm suspending my campaign, and you keep all that money. And now you're sitting on a big... So I always say that there's a whole bunch of fly-by-night con people who will announce and they'll run for, we'll see them all the time. Weird radio people. I'm ready for president. No, you're not. You're trying to make money off of your listeners who are going to then give you money. I don't think Chris Christie is in that group. Chris Christie is a very interesting guy. He's a very serious guy. Got to pay attention to Chris Christie. Chris Christie is not a loser. Chris Christie is not, what I mean by loser is, he's not it's not like one of these no names we're never going to hear from. Chris Christie is a very popular governor in New Jersey. Chris Christie had scandals and he weathered them all. Why? Because the people in New Jersey liked him. Because the people in New Jersey, I like Chris Christie. Here's my problem with Chris Christie. I liked Chris Christie until the Trump thing. until 2016. I was one of these sort of moderates who was like, I could kind of dig on Chris Christie. I kind of like his no nonsense approach. I like the way he calls bullshit. I like that he's a thoughtful guy. He's thoughtful and he has compassion and empathy, and he understands how to balance that with calling bullshit. Those are qualities that I like. He never struck me as being inauthentic, which is the number one thing when I look at a presidential candidate. I think, is this a real guy? Or is this just a guy playing a role? Chris Christie is a big, fat New Jersey guy who's just like, all right, enough. Everybody calm down. And I kind of like that about him. Now, I got very upset with him. He started carrying water for some people who I thought were obviously duplicitous con men. But he only carried water for them for a period of time. But I still don't know that I forgive him for that. He has now turned on them. So why is Chris Christie announcing that he's going to run for president interesting? Because that dude wants a piece of Trump. That dude wants a piece of President Trump. And I'm telling you, you put those guys on a debate stage. You think Chris Christie is going to be Jeb Bush? Chris Christie is a fucking tough guy. Chris Christie is not going to back down from Donald Trump. And Chris Christie, now that we know there's no rules, see, this is the advantage that Trump had the last time in the presidential primaries. Trump decided there were no rules anymore. And everybody else was like, no, we still have rules. And Trump is like, no, we don't. And that's how he won. Now we know there are no rules. You think Chris Christie is going to walk in and let Trump do the Trump thing to him? Chris Christie's known Trump for 20, 30 years. Chris Christie has known Trump as the real estate guy who was always S&D trying to get favorable, laws passed and all of that. That's who Chris Christie knows Trump as. So this will be interesting. I still don't know that I could support Chris Christie. I have no idea. I'm just saying I'm very conflicted with Chris Christie because there are aspects of him that I like. There's also a whole lot of stuff that you say, well, because, the left has seen Christie as a potential rising threat for about 10 years now. So the left has consistently put little ticky-tack things out there about him. This is why he's a bad guy. Oh, shut up. I don't care about that. They're all bad. First of all, anybody who wants that level of power and thinks that they are capable of wielding that level of power compassionately and effectively, there's something wrong with that person. I want a president who goes, this is going to be a hard job, but I'm up to it. I'm going to really try. That's kind of what I think. Christie seems like he would be a decent administrator. Still don't know that I would vote for him, but I certainly want to listen to him. I certainly want to hear him, and I certainly want to see him take Trump apart because Christie will take Trump apart. Because Trump is not a smart man. Trump is not an eloquent man. Trump is a guy who gets up on stage and is just mean, and it shocks everybody, and they're like, can you say that? Wow. And then the moment's gone, and you're like, wow, that guy really won the debate. But he wasn't smart. He wasn't witty. He's not like, Christie's pretty witty. Christie, I think, is going to carve him up and make him look foolish. And I'd always said that I wanted a black woman to go up against Trump because I don't believe that Trump knows how to argue with a black woman that doesn't work for him. I'm certain that Trump's experience with black women his entire life has been nannies, maids, people who work for him, maybe a couple people in the business office, but they're all subservient. They're all, yes, Mr. Trump. Yes, Mr. Trump. Trump has never been on a city bus. Trump has never had to share a city bus with a whole bunch of people who don't give a fuck that he's Trump. Those are the black women that I want to see go after Trump. That's where I don't think he would know how to respond. But I can't get a black woman because the Republican Party doesn't have any strong black women like that. So we need Chris Christie. Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is expected to announce his 2024 Republican candidacy for president. Why it matters. Christie, 60, is a former close Trump ally who now calls the former president a coward and a puppet of Putin. See, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want someone who's not afraid of him to stand up there on stage and go, why you S-ing Putin's D? I want to see him, Trump, try and explain this shit. Christie's expected to make the announcement at a town hall at St. Anselm College at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time next Tuesday. They're talking about this next Tuesday. Here's what to expect from a Christie candidacy. One. All right, so this is his whole thing. This is what he's going out there to do. One, being joyful and hitting a more hopeful note aimed at America's exhausted majority. Well, okay. Just as long as you're not joyfully, doing bad stuff, being authentic. He says, a happy warrior who speaks his mind, takes risks, and is happy to punch Donald Trump in the nose. This is from his campaign. And that is really important. And I think that is something that Chris Christie has over just about any of the rest of these guys, being authentic. I think Chris Christie is authentic. I think he is authentically Chris Christie. When he had that Bridgegate situation and he just got up in front of everybody and went, yeah, so what? Go ahead, do what you got to do. When he did that, I was like, yes, thank you. Finally, somebody who's like, these are some silly, well, that actually wasn't silly. That was actually a pretty big thing. And it was kind of bad that he did it, but it's not something uniquely bad that he did. I mean, it's the kind of thing that people in that sort of position do all the time. But anyway, we digress. 3, the third tenet of Chris Christie's presidential election, running a national race, a non-traditional campaign that is highly focused on earned media, mixing it up with news cycles and engaging Trump. An advisor said, will not be geographically dependent, but nimble. The campaign will be run by longtime Christie hands Maria Comella and Mike Duhame. Officials of the Chris Christie Super PAC, tell it like it is, include Brian Jones. I don't know. We don't care about any of that. Guess who's on his team? Guess who is on Chris Christie's communications team? Scaramouche. I love the Scaramouche. I love the Scaramouche. Scaramouche, he's a fun guy, man. Competent guy, smart guy. Lasted 24 hours in the Trump White House before he went, hey, this is some nonsense. And they blew him out. Scaramucci's a good dude. He's a good communications guy, and he's going to be good for. He couldn't do his magic with the Trump team because there were no rules that applied there. He was like, okay, you don't need me, and so he was gone very quickly. Scaramouche is running the communications team of Chris Christie, it appears. Tara Reid. You guys know who Tara Reid is? She's trending today. I thought Tara Reid was like. I thought Tara Reid was like a train wreck early 2000s Hollywood teen actress. Who is that? Who am I thinking of? Is there a Tara Reid? Tara Reid? Who was Tara Reid, right? Didn't Tara Reid American Pie? Wasn't Tara Reid? I don't know, whatever. That's not the Tara Reid who's trending here. This Tara Reid. This is how this stuff works. This Tara Reid is the Tara Reid who, in October of 2020, just before the November election, Tara Reid came out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, in the last couple of weeks before the election, Tara Reid came out and announced that she had been sexually assaulted by Joe Biden. What? With 2 weeks left? The Trump campaign trotted her out. They went and got her, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Went nowhere because there was absolutely zero evidence and it just wasn't true. It was just another one of these things that the Trump team did to try and, win a little bump. If it was a close race, they wanted people going into the ballot boxes going, but I heard he raped a woman in 1992, right? That's what they were wanting. They knew it wouldn't go anywhere. They knew there was no evidence. So that whole thing went away. So why is Tara Reid trending now? I mean, do you remember she's the girl who came out of nowhere to accuse Joe Biden of raping her, sexually assaulting her in 1992. Came out of nowhere, was a big story, did absolutely nothing, didn't work. The Trump team, whatever, they put her out there. So why is Tara Reid trending today? Tara Reid is now a full-fledged citizen of Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, that's right. Tara Reid, as soon as she did her job here, she went over to Russia and applied for citizenship and was given citizenship. She received citizenship in a way that no American citizen has almost ever received, other than Snowden, other than other people who were working for the KGB or whatever the hell it is, that organization that they have now here. But you ask yourself this, the woman who just happened to come out weeks before the election in 2020 and accused the president of doing something that he went, I don't even know who this woman is. And it went away. Why did the story go away? Because there was no basis for it anywhere. It was just thrown out there to make a headline so that people would think bad things about Biden. That woman is now a citizen of Russia. Can you connect the dots or are you too stupid? Can you connect the dots? Oh, but no, none of that shit was going on. Please. Let's see. What else do we have here? I know you're not stupid. Let's see here. Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is trending. Hey, we're getting a maxi show today. I hope you guys are cool with that. I got nowhere to go. Actually, I do got something to do. I'm actually really busy today, but that's okay. We're gonna keep pushing. Hold on, let me see something. All right. Taylor Swift amnesia. Have you heard about this? Oh, this is something they're talking about. Apparently, a bunch of girls who are going to see Taylor Swift are immediately following the Taylor Swift concert. They can't remember anything about it. And they're calling it Taylor Swift amnesia. God, this is stupid. This is a normal thing that happens. These girls are like just super excited and they're being overwhelmed with incoming and they're like, oh, look at this and the colors. And you forget shit. Dude, this is a normal thing with performers. I can give you an example. Radio people. I would do a show, like Kelly and I would do a show. And then we go out and we do an appearance and someone would come up to me and go, remember today when you said, and I would have no memory at all of what they're saying. It's because you forget these things. It's not something special for Taylor Swift. It's because when people are firing on all cylinders and everything's coming fast and furious and you're just free balling it, sometimes, you forget those things because your brain is not, committing everything to memory. Your brain is just, focusing. And so, I mean, that's pretty common. I imagine that, people who saw New Kids on the Block in 1991, there were girls like, I don't remember them playing that song. But because it's Taylor Swift, we're making it special because everything about Taylor Swift is special. I just tell you how done I am with Taylor Swift. Turned 40 already. Jeez. Taylor Swift amnesia is not a thing. Even though it's trending, it's not a thing. I mean, it is a thing. It's a thing that happens normally. People get all excited and they have a great time and they have so many interesting experiences that all come at once. You forget things. You forget that. They're saying that the Taylor Swift amnesia situation is best embodied by a story of Gracie. Gracie is a girl who went to a Taylor Swift concert. And apparently Taylor played a song that is like her favorite song. And she didn't expect Taylor to play her favorite song. So Taylor played her favorite song and she started jamming out to it. And her friend was recording her. And then after the concert, they were in the back seat of the car on the way home. And the friend said, do you remember when Taylor played, this song? And the friend goes, she didn't play that song. And the friend was like, yes, she did. Look, here's a video of you dancing to it. And the girl's like, oh my God, I must have Taylor Swift amnesia. No. You were just overwhelmed with everything. That's not exactly scientific, okay? And yet, there you go. The New York Times doing a whole story about Taylor Swift amnesia. Okay, so let's take a second here. This is why I said let's I gotta say, although I don't approve, but I kind of do approve. I kind of do approve of this comment from Jeff Ballard regarding Tara Reid. Here's what I approve. I approve that I don't approve. I approve that he's being a little bit, poking that stick. But in the same time, he's just, fabricating more of this nonsense about Biden being a pedophile because he rubbed his granddaughter's shoulders. You fucking people are broken. You people are broken. You see an old man who has warmth and compassion for children and you immediately go pedophile. You folks need to stop that. More and more of you people who are so ardently opposed to all the pedophiles and the grooming, more and more of you are turning up in police blotters with child pornography. More and more of you are projecting, I think, this whole pedophile thing. You're seeing pedophiles everywhere. Stop it. It's weird. It is weird. Everyone is not a pedophile. Let's focus on the real pedophiles and let's get them. But this obsession with pedophilia, and it comes from people who I think are real pedophiles who are trying to cover that up. And how do you cover? If you're a real pedophile and you're trying to cover it up, you don't want people to think you're a pedophile. What are you going to do? You're going to call everybody else pedophiles because you're the guy that's anti-pedophile. So stop it. That's just such an unappealing thing. Joe Biden is not a pedophile. He likes children. I like children. Jesus Christ, man. If you want to put every time I'm around my kid, my own kid, like I'm draping my arm around him. E's kid, Dom, not my kid. If he's standing in front of me, guess what I'm doing? I'm rubbing his shoulders. I'm like, we're standing on the sideline or something. He's playing a game. Like, you get in there. I'm not a fucking pedophile. Okay. I just like children. Oh, that was not good. Not in that way. Oh, Jesus. That was not how I wanted to say that. Moving on. I like women. I think I've been clear. I like big boobs. First of all, I like sophistication. I think that we've been clear that the women that I am attracted to have a sense of sophistication. That's not something children have. Children have no sense of sophistication. They're a bunch of dummies. Taylor Swift amnesia. All right, let's spend a moment here. I want to talk about something that's really exciting. And it's only exciting because, coincidentally, I recently, in the last couple of days, have discovered something that I am obsessed with. And there's a story out today that talks about AI. Everybody's talking about AI. You know, what is AI? AI. Artificial intelligence. It's going to occupy absolutely every predictive, everything, whatever. We're not gonna, it's not the broad subject of AI, but it kind of is. AI is moving into sports. There is a belief that not now, we're like not even in generation 1 of AI, right? But there is a belief that years in the future that sports and competitions will be completely artificial intelligence, that we will no longer rely on humans, which is strange to me because I love sports, and the attraction to sport or competition is entirely, albeit subconsciously, driven by our understanding of human limitation. That's why we love sport. That's why when we see a guy who runs a 4.2 40-yard dash, we go, wow, because we understand human limitation. We understand that that's really fast. And a human should not be able to go that fast. Now, by the same token, we also have no expectation that this guy's going to run as fast as a bullet, right? We understand human limitation. And that's why sport and competition is so gripping and so interesting. And again, I say that our attraction to it is entirely, but subconsciously, it's subconsciously driven by our understanding of human limitation. So when we start watching, and I'll give you an example here. Let's say the NFL in 200 years is now just a bunch of computer programmed sets of skills and stats and all that. And that's the NFL that we're watching. Why? Because broken heads are bad and can't play football or whatever. If that's where it's going, and that's what this article is talking about. Not necessarily NFL football, but sport in general. Like new sports might evolve that come out of AI. I find this interesting because, as I was saying, last week I discovered something and I am obsessed with it. And I've been asking myself, I'm in the middle of watching these things. I found them on YouTube. I'm in the middle of watching these things and I'm asking myself, I'm like, is this authentic? Is this real? Like, am I in this emotion that I'm feeling because I've got anxiety? Oh, my fingers crossed, is this real? What I'm feeling when I'm watching this thing on YouTube. And what is this thing on YouTube that I'm watching? I have been watching computer simulated games of Madden for the entire 2023 Chicago Bears season. I have watched the first 2 games. So basically what they do is, look, these exist. Your kids probably know about them. But it speaks to this greater article about AI sports, about where sport is going and how AI and sport will sort of intersect in the future. Again, I keep saying that I don't think that's really going to happen because our attraction to sport is based on our understanding of human limitation. These are human beings doing things that we are impressed by. If it's a computer, how are we going to be impressed by a computer? We expect computers to be able to do everything. We don't have the context of, look at how fast he is compared to what I know I am. Right? That's why we like sports. Computer, look at how fast that computer is compared to, yeah, no kidding, it's a computer. So I'm interested in how that changes. But dude, I've watched these games. So like I guess like you take Madden, or I don't know anything about these games. I don't know anything about PlayStation, Madden, whatever. My kid's obsessed with them, but apparently you can take these games and like say you take the 2023 post-draft Chicago Bears, which is my team, which is the games that I'm watching. And it's got all the rookies on there. It's got all the free agent pickups. It's the team. It's like the team as it looks in OTAs now. The first one that I watched was only posted a day earlier. So it was as up to date the team. I mean, I got Justin Fields throwing to DJ Moore, which they've never even played together yet, which is like really kind of interesting watching on this simulation. So I saw this video. It was 2023 computer simulation, game 1, Green Bay Packers at Chicago Bears. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll watch this. I'll see what the computer says. I started watching this game. It was like a 2-hour game. It's like 2-hour condensed on YouTube. I started watching this game. You guys, I watched the whole game. And at some point then I watched another game. Then I watched like a second game. At some point in this game, I kept saying to myself, this is not a real game. But then I would answer myself by going, yeah, but these are, they're using all the statistics. They're using all of the stuff that these players have done in the past, and a computer is randomly doing the matchups. I got this. So what if it's not real? It's interesting. This is interesting how this is playing out. Here, let me show you what it looks like. I can show you what it looks like, and I'll show you a play or two just to show you why I got so weirdly into it. It is almost indistinguishable from watching a real football game. I know that sounds crazy, but here we go. And obviously we won't watch the whole thing, but I want to show you a little bit of it. Hold up. All right, here we go. All right, so here we go. So look at that. First quarter, 8 minutes. Is that a Madden thing? The quarter home in 8 minutes. So, again, we won't spend a whole lot of time on this. I'm sitting there watching.
It's a rivalry that dates back to 1921. The Packers and Bears are underway from Chicago. Fielded just outside the goal line. And a good effort on the return there. Gets him across the 30, up to the 33. So here are the Bears now for their opening drive. They'll be led out by a first-round pick back in 2021 from Ohio State. It's Justin Fields.
And not only does he have all the skills that you're looking for as a quarterback, he's incredibly tough and plays the game fearlessly as both a runner and a passer. You provide a good running game around him and let him throw deep off of play action, you've got an all-star in the making.
All right, so you watch the game like it's a real game. And again, it's all the new players. It's like this game was like 24 hours old when I watched.
So they'll come up first and 10 now from the 33. Now Herbert to start the drive. And he'll be taken down right around the 34 after a pickup of only a yard.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a force of nature in the defensive tackle position. Yes, he's as big as they come, but still plenty agile. He's able to make a nice play there to swallow up the ball carrier.
Let's see what do we got here.
Second and 9, just a yard on that last run. Fields now to throw. And he will find the open man. It's DJ Moore.
Look at that.
And they're going to get this up to
midfield. They haven't actually been on the field together at the same time yet, and I'm watching Justin Fields.
And that's a more than acceptable read right there because of zone coverage. So timing is everything. This time he looks for his man to come open, puts it right on him, and they pick up the first down. This is enough
to make me want to learn how to play Madden. Why do you even play it? Like, why not just watch it? Just let the computer create these games and watch the games.
From the 50, here's Fields. That's complete to his running back, Herbert. And he'll be taken down, but not before they work this to the 45.
I like it. Get everyone involved in the passing game. And you know you can create those great mismatches throwing it to your guys out of the backfield.
And on the first drive, that can also help establish some rhythm, right?
I think so. It gets everyone involved. They feel like they're part of it and really gets them amped up as they go forward.
From the 45 on second down, Fields. And this is taken in by Darnell Mooney. And this is going to result in another first down as the tackle's made at the Packers 33. Give him 12 yards on that one. It earns him a fresh set of downs.
DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, and Willis Jones is not a bad receiving core. For a team that had the worst receiving core in football.
Throwing again is Fields.
There he goes. Go, Justin. That's it, kid. You go, kid. You go, kid. You go, kid.
And he takes this one in for a Bears touchdown.
That's what my quarterback does. All right. So the bigger point is, will AI creep into sports, and how will that change us? I mean, I don't know how many years, but let's say 50 years in the future, will the biggest sport in America be something that is human-based? Or is it going to be all AI? Are these new, I mean, and what kind of, it's not like sport, like the sports that we're familiar with now, the big four, basketball, hockey, baseball, football. Those are sports that are all entirely dependent on human ability, right? So I don't know that there will be a translation or transition there to those into an AI world. Like we've just seen with football. We saw an AI version of a football game. But what about new sports? What about new things that might be invented? Man, the ground is so fertile. There is like going to be openings for an entire, you want to be George Halas and you think that, you weren't around in 1920 to sign on with the original NFL. You want to be that guy. You think that time that time hasn't passed, man. That time is just always around the corner again. You just got to keep an eye open. And I'm telling you, there's something that's going to happen. Sports in this, I'm going to say country because I don't want to speak for the whole world, but sports in this country is such an important thing. And it has grown and it has changed over the generations. I mean, you look at the NBA today and then think about what the NBA was in 1980. Your head will explode. Do you realize that the NBA finals, Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird, the NBA finals of 1980. Do you know when they aired on television? On tape delay after the 10 o'clock news. If you watched Magic Johnson play Larry Bird in 1980 in the NBA finals, you had to watch it on tape delay at 10:30 after your local news on CBS. Then they would put it on because that's how little we thought of the NBA in 1980. So sports change. So who knows what's going to be the thing, and who knows what kind of new creations, are we going to have gunfights? Is that going to be a sport, an AI gunfight? I don't know. Anyway, it's very interesting. I don't get the whole AI thing. It's coming too fast, too furious for me. But I do see some areas where it's like, okay, I don't know exactly what AI does, but sports, AI sports might be a thing. You know what else? Gaming as professional sport. I know I'm late to the party on that. We're already 10 years established in that. But I think in 50 years, that's going to be one of the biggest sports in the world. Watching kids play video games. Not for us. We won't like it. But I bet your great-grandpa wouldn't have enjoyed watching LeBron James. Your great-grandpa would be like, why are you watching this crap? No, people change. My kid sits in front of a YouTube screen and watches other people play video games all day long. So to his generation and to the generations that are coming, I assume that's going to be a normal thing. Playing video games is going to get you college scholarships. Colleges already have gaming departments where you can get a scholarship at some colleges if you are a video gamer, just like you could if you're a football player or a baseball player or a girls volleyball player. It doesn't matter. AI, it's coming. Speaking of football, here's another little football story. Troy Aikman is rattling some cages. Troy Aikman went on a podcast yesterday and said that he thinks Tom Brady might come out of retirement. Okay, he didn't exactly say that, but that's what the headlines are saying. Aikman says Brady's gonna unretire. That's not exactly what he said. What he said was that I missed this story. Did Tom Brady buy a piece of the Vegas Raiders? Is Tom Brady one of the owners of the Vegas Raiders? Hold on. I need to ask this before I go on. Is Tom Brady an owner of the Vegas Raiders? In March, not long after his second retirement in as many years, Brady acquired an ownership stake in the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces, who are primarily controlled by Davis. Now, the latter has agreed to sell a minority share of the Raiders to the future Hall of Famer and submitted the agreement to the NFL for approval. Okay, so it's not approval yet, but yes, it does. It looks like Tom Brady is going to be somehow involved in ownership with the Las Vegas Raiders. Good for him. Troy Aikman is saying that, well, I could see him coming out of retirement. And to that, I say, great. Let him come out of retirement at 47 years old, play for the Vegas Raiders. They're going to be terrible anyway. The Vegas Raiders, I'm telling you, I've said this from the very beginning. The Vegas Raiders are never going to win anything. I'm sorry. You might be a Vegas fan. You might be a Raiders fan. Going all the way back to Oakland, Los Angeles, then Oakland again. But I am telling you, Raider fans, your team will never win anything. And also, here's another thing to look out for. Your team, the Las Vegas Raiders, are going to have one of the consistently worst home records in all of the NFL. Your team, the Las Vegas Raiders, are going to lose more games at home to other teams than is usually the case with the home team. Now, why is that? Because Vegas is a bad place to try and be a professional athlete. Vegas is a bad place to be 23 years old and a multimillionaire. Vegas never sleeps. Do you think that a player who's maybe, I don't know, a rookie in Green Bay is going to have the distractions or any of that kind of thing that a rookie in Vegas is going to have? Hey, you're 22 years old. You're a rookie. You just got a check for $5 million as a signing bonus. What are you doing tonight? Well, you're doing something crazy. You're probably going to get yourself in a little bit of trouble. Same kid in Green Bay. What's he doing? Going ice fishing? What are you going to do? You're going to go out in an ice shanty? Going to cut a hole in the ground? My point is this. Vegas is a bad place to try and be a serious competitor. Vegas is a bad place. Here's the other thing you got to think of. Every single Vegas Raider home game, every single Vegas Raider player for every single Vegas Raider home game is going to have friends in from out of town. Every single game. You could be on the kickoff return team for the Oakland Raiders, but your buddies from Dayton are coming to Vegas for a weekend to party with you, and you got to hang out with them. You gotta be, well, I got a game, so I can't go crazy. Come on, pussy, do another shot. I am telling you, the distractions of being a Las Vegas Raider is going to make it so this team doesn't win anything. I don't believe this team is ever going to win anything. I think, could you get to Henry Ruggs? Henry Ruggs is a great example. That's just the first. Do you know how many Raiders over the next couple of years are going to be arrested and they're going to get in all kinds of trouble for being doing stupid shit? Why? Because there's a lot of stupid shit you can do at Vegas at 4:45 a.m., right? Where everybody else, you play for the Cleveland Browns, you've been in bed for 3 hours. You play for the Las Vegas Raiders, you're in the casinos. You're going to need a coach that is going to. So go ahead, Tom Brady, at 47 years old. Go ahead, play for the Las Vegas Raiders. Your linemen are going to be hungover. Everybody's going to be distracted. You're going to have players on the sideline texting with their mom, not their mom, their old college roommate. Hey, man, we going out after the game? The unbelievably bad place to put a professional team of anything. Doesn't matter if you're the Vegas Knights. Doesn't matter if you're the Oakland A's who are coming. Maybe baseball's different because it's 162 games and, whatever. Anyway, Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman didn't say that Tom Brady was coming out of retirement, but Troy Aikman openly theorized that as a new owner of the Vegas Raiders, that Tom Brady, and he's always physically fit, he may want to come back out. So who knows? Maybe Tom Brady, quarterback of the Vegas Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo probably didn't like hearing that. Jimmy Garoppolo's like, holy shit. Are you kidding me? If it ain't Trey Lance, if it ain't the kid coming up to take my job, now it's grandpa coming out of retirement to take my job. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Generous. That's my nickname for him. Jimmy Generous, always willing to turn the ball over when you need it most. Pat McAfee is trending today. Pat McAfee is trending because details of his deal with ESPN have been revealed. Pretty interesting, too. Pat McAfee is, of course, a streamer, just like me. Yeah. And that's where the comparisons end. Pat McAfee does an incredible show. And, look, he's got a lot of money. He was a professional football player, and he retired. And he's like, I got a bunch of money. I'm going to put a whole bunch of my money into my cool ass studio, and I'm going to pay people. He's got a whole staff. Pat McAfee did it right. Pat McAfee launched a streaming show, an everyday streaming show like this. Here it's just me and Ed, man. It's me and Ed and Emil. This is the three people responsible for that. So, we're grinding it out. We ain't giving up. But Pat McAfee had an advantage. Pat McAfee had NFL money. He had, connections and all that kind of stuff. Not being bitter. Great show. I have so much admiration for Pat McAfee as a broadcast personality. I don't give a shit about him as a football player. I don't know. He's a punter. He was a funny punter. He was funny. He was entertaining. He did silly things. I don't care about that. He's a tremendous broadcaster. Pat McAfee is a natural at what it is that he's doing, and he's exploding. And his stream on YouTube exploded. It exploded years ago. I mean, it's not like this is new. It exploded years ago. FanDuel came in 2 years ago and gave him $120 million for 4 years. So I'll tell you what, we're going to give you a check. FanDuel came in, so it's FanDuel Pat McAfee show. FanDuel gave him $120 million. And then because they wanted him so badly, he had an out after 2 years. So he's only halfway through the FanDuel $120 million deal. And Pat McAfee is signed and he's jumping ship and he's going over to ESPN. And ESPN has given him everything. Just ESPN shouldn't even be ESPN anyway. It should just be the Pat McAfee channel because they are going 100% in on Pat McAfee being the brand of ESPN. Pat McAfee opens up about his $85 million ESPN leap. Pat McAfee's deal with ESPN is for 5 years and around $85 million. Okay, so what is that, like $16, $17 million a year? We're talking wide receiver money. He's making wide receiver. Finally, he's a punter his whole life. So his yearly income, his little money he's going to get there, his yearly income from ESPN just for showing up and doing his show, it's going to be about $17 million a year. Pretty good. But that's not all, you see, because they're giving him the streaming rights. So that means all of the streaming stuff, he's going to have millions and millions of people watching his stream. He gets all that money too. That money is expected to be at least in the same ballpark as the 17 million. And then he's got all the branding. And then anyway, this is an incredible deal for McAfee. With the contract beginning this fall, the next chapter of the Pat McAfee Show will air on weekdays, sports television's most powerful platforms. It will be on ESPN's cable channel. It'll be on ESPN's free YouTube channel and on its direct-to-consumer streaming service, ESPN+. The ESPN streaming thing is interesting because he made ESPN bend to his will. Pat McAfee, when he went in and started negotiating with ESPN, he said, look, first and foremost, my show has always been free. It has always been streamed. I don't like that I got to come to ESPN, and now all of a sudden the only way you get me is if you have a cable package. You're going to have to make what I do on your platform available for free by streaming it. And ESPN was like, all right, we'll stream it live and for free. So the ESPN YouTube channel, which doesn't do live streaming because ESPN wants you to buy cable. ESPN wants you to pay for cable so you can get ESPN. But because of this deal, ESPN went, yeah, okay, you can have the live stream. You can have ESPN YouTube channel will stream your show live. With the contract beginning this fall, the next chapter of the Pat McAfee Show will air on television's most powerful platforms. Let's see here. It will be on ESPN's cable channel, ESPN's free YouTube channel, and on its direct-to-consumer streaming service. Interesting number, in quotes, McAfee told the Post when asked about the contract. I don't talk about the business side of it at all, the actual numbers and such, McAfee said. ESPN declined to comment as well on figures of the deal, but McAfee, 36 years old, did detail why he and ESPN executives aligned and was asked why he walked away, not even midway through his FanDuel sponsorship deal that was valued at $120 million. And here's what he says. I won't read you the article, but basically he said, why did he walk away from the $120 million guaranteed for 4 years from FanDuel for a lesser amount, $85 million for 5 years from ESPN? And it makes total sense to me. And it's because with FanDuel, he had to do everything. He was doing everything. ESPN is now going to do, Pat McAfee is just going to show up. Pat McAfee's producers are going to be paid by ESPN. His facilities are all going to be paid by ESPN, all of that kind of stuff. It allows him to essentially just be a performer. He also is now been named by ESPN the permanent co-host of College Football Game Day, which for the past couple of years he had been a regular contributor to and always somebody fun on the panel there before a big Iowa State versus Northwestern game or whatever game day was. So he's going to be doing that as well. They're also talking about developing a live evening show for him. So like at 8:00 at night. How does ESPN think they're going to do that though? Because they have live sports most of the time on evenings. Anyway, big crazy deal. They're finally talking about the details of it. We'd been tracking it here because I was very concerned that I wasn't going to be able to see my Pat McAfee anymore. Tonight, after we do this show, like after we finish this, I will go downstairs and I will make some lunch. And while I am making lunch, I will be listening to either the Score 670 in Chicago or possibly Pat McAfee. That's what I do. He's great. He's great. I don't care if you don't like him. People are like, I don't like him. I'm like, well, what don't you like about him? The fact that he's an eternal optimist, the fact that he's like really good energy all the time, the fact that he seems to be really nice to people, the fact that he has this group of people around him and all they do is endlessly bust each other's balls like the best of friends do. And then at the end, it's all cool and all good. Why? Because it's all good energy. What exactly don't you like about Pat McAfee? It's like I can see people not like him because, he's like, I got hot takes and I hate this guy and you should hate this guy. Like, I could see if he was like an AM talk radio guy, why people would be like, I hate him. There's no reason to hate him. He might be a little much. You might find him a little bit too intense and a little bit too energetic and all that stuff. That's fine. That's understandable. That's not a reason to hate. That's a reason to dislike. That's a reason to be like, it's not my thing. I don't get it. Easy target. Seems like a really good dude. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, you know who doesn't seem like a good dude? Oh, we got two examples here of people who don't seem like good dudes. Let me show you this. This was a beauty pageant in Brazil. I have questions. I have a lot of questions about this beauty pageant. Let's watch it. Oh, wait. Are they going to make us watch an ad here? Because this isn't. Hold on. Oh, it's TMZ. So they're not going to make us watch an ad. Okay, that's good. All right, so here's a story here. So there's a beauty pageant, which, I think beauty pageants are weird to begin with. Beauty pageants are a scam. When you get to like the elite level, I guess that's real, like Miss America, Miss Universe, and all that stuff. But do you know how many, I'm not talking about anyone specifically, okay? So forgive me if anyone gets upset by this. But some moms are delusional about their daughters. Like they think their daughters are so much more beautiful than they actually are. These moms, they tend to, when these kids are young, like 7, 8, 9, they get them involved in these pageants, and they start going and then, you go over to their house and you see the pictures on the mantle and it's all these pictures of their completely uninteresting looking child wearing beauty crowns and stuff. And you're like, she's a beauty queen, huh? Well, that's our little beauty queen. And you look at her and you're like, all right. It's a scam. It plays on mothers who want their children to be something else. Anyway, there are so many pageants. I mean, if you're not interested in pageants, you don't know this. I'm not interested in pageants, and I know it just because, I don't know. Don't box me in a corner. There are so many pageants. So here's one that took place in Brazil. Now, man, I don't know what's going on here. I have a lot of questions. Like, first of all, I'm not entirely sure that these women, quote, quote, these women at this beauty pageant in Brazil, were they born women? Respectfully, were they born women? Here's what happens. So they're at the very end of a beauty pageant in Brazil, and they've got the two finalists, and they're holding the crown, and you're going to give the crown to one. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Well, someone won. And the husband of the loser apparently storms the stage. Not apparently, does. We see it. They storm the stage. And they start destroying things. It's crazy. But, other than that, what husband is so obsessed with his wife's beauty pageant career that, one, you would give a shit? I mean, why is he even there? But then, two, that you would act so insane about it and then watch him the way he's on stage. I'm like, this man is not having sex with his beauty queen wife. This man is way too into beauty pageants. I don't think, what is going on here? So let's watch this. A lot of questions. Here we go. Some crazy beauty pageant in Brazil. All right. First of all, you see these women? First of all, I don't know. First of all, let's say first of all a few more times. First of all, biological women who become beauty pageant contestants as grown-ups, like in this list. These are grown-ups. These aren't little kids. You know, cute little Miss Buttercup. No, this is like grown-up women. Legitimate, that's probably not a good way. Biological females who are in beauty pageants, they look like this. This is like, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the way they're all done up. They're tall, they're thin, you know, they're model-esque, all of that stuff. That fit. But you know who else looks like that? Trans people. I can't tell the difference between trans people and beauty pageant contestants because all trans people look like beauty pageant contestants. Well, not all of them, but you know what I mean? Like the good ones. Look, there are good and bad. Look, I'm sure there are good and bad people in all walks of life. What I'm saying is the proper trans person who is like a professional performer and all that, they look at beauty pageant contestants. So I don't know what's going on here. But apparently, these are the two women who are finalists. Okay, so let's watch what happens. Women, I don't know what this is. And can I just say that it's grainy and it's blurry, but I'm kind of turned on. I'm like looking at these women. I'm going, they're attractive women. I bet they're hot. I'm just being honest. I don't know. They might be dudes. I don't know. All right, so here comes Crown. All right, one of these people is going to get the crown. All right, so I'm going to stop it here because you need a little bit more guidance. The crown is going to go on the head of the woman on the left, okay? She's the winner. The crazy husband is married to the woman on the right, okay? The woman on the right. I point this out because we never get to see the crown put on the head of the actual winner. And it's kind of, there's people pushing and it gets kind of crazy. So, but that's what you need to know is about to happen. The person holding the crown is about to putting on the head of the woman on the left. There it goes. Oh, is it going to be this one? Oh, who's going to win? Who's going to win? Oh, look at, okay, so she won. She's the one. She's like, oh, I can't believe it. She's crumbling. And now, of course, the woman who loses has always got to be the good sport. You are the most beautiful pageant person ever. You deserve it. Right, you got to do that, even though really pissed off. So here we go. Here comes husband who, look at this. Okay, first of all, let's just say it's a woman. Okay, can we just say this is a, just take a walk with me? I don't know. Maybe these are trans people. It's Brazil, man. There are no rules. I have no idea what I'm looking at here. But let's say that this is a woman. Okay, let's say this is a biological woman. She's hot as hell. She's hot as hell. If you are, we don't know that she's trans. She might be, she might not be. I don't know. But right now, look, this woman is hot as hell. This woman, look at that butt. She looks great. She's in a dress. She looks beautiful, right? What do you see her husband? Her husband ain't giving her what he needs. Here we go. Oh, here he is. Now he's up on stage. All right, so he just jumped. First of all, look at how he just sort of prances on stage. He's like, this is like an atrocity. There we go. And he grabs it and he throws it. And now he's like, no. And now he's dragging his wife. All right, so now at this point, watch this. At this point, I'm starting to think, that's a man, baby. I'm starting to think, is this a trans pageant? I need more information. This guy is not a heterosexual man. No heterosexual man would be this into his wife losing a beauty pageant. So now he's taking her away. Oh, he's got the crown. Oh, he's throwing the crown on the ground. Here come the police. You don't tell me, Mr. Man. I don't get what's going on here. I need more detail. This poor lady, she just won a beauty pageant. I'm sure she's, well, not act like they ruined her wedding. I mean, you know, it was a stupid beauty pageant. I have no idea what's going on there. It's Brazil. There are no rules. I don't know if I was looking at trans people. That guy was obviously gay. The husband of the person who lost was obviously a gay man. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. Here's what he obviously was. He obviously was very feminine. He had some very feminine qualities to him. The way he moved, the way that's all I'm saying. But I don't know what the hell was going on there. That was crazy. All right, what else do I have? I think that's kind of it. Look at us doing 3 hours. I'm going to explain why I'm doing 3 hours today. And then let's see how happy you are about these 3 hours. The numbers are so low. How many people did we not get today? We need. Never mind. Rising above. It has been a crazy bad couple of days, man. Not bad, just bad, like just in a mood, just a mood. Oh, you know what? Here's something that I can mention. So, between watching computerized Madden games on YouTube, I started watching something on Saturday. Because yes, I'm re-binging Friday Night Lights, but I'm not watching like 5 episodes of Friday Night Lights, and I'm watching like 1 episode of Friday Night Lights every night. A man cannot live on Friday Night Lights alone. So I've been watching other things. I've been, just sampling things, looking for something new. Couple of my television diet has taken a serious hit in the last 72 hours. Succession ended. Final episode of Succession. Succession is over. I don't have Succession anymore. Succession is one of my favorite shows of all time. Succession is great. Succession is no more. I will never get to see Succession again. 4 seasons, 40 episodes. That's Succession. That ended Sunday night. Then Barry on HBO. I don't know if I'm spoiler alert. Don't know if you watch Barry. I didn't know that Sunday night was the final episode of Barry. I still don't know for sure. I mean, it seems like it would be. Barry's dead, so the show, I don't know how. But then Barry ended, and I'm like, geez. Okay, so Succession is over. One of the best shows on television right now, so I don't have that to look forward to anymore. And then Barry ended, and I'm like, holy shit. And again, I didn't know that Barry, I knew it was the season finale. I didn't know it was the series finale. So when that thing happened at the end, when Henry Winkler, Gene Kuzmo from the Barry universe, when Gene Kuzmo does what he does, I was like, whoa, wait a second. Is this series over? Because Barry is so good, it can't be over. Well, I think it's over. And then last night, I was crushed. I had no idea this was happening. You guys, is Ted Lasso over? Is that over? Is it done? Did I watch the last ever episode of Ted Lasso last night? The season 3 or season 4? I think it's season 3. The season 3 finale? Is that it? Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Nah, never mind. I won't spoil it for you because I like Ted Lasso too much. Don't worry. Yeah, don't worry about it. I won't spoil it for you. But it's over. Ted Lasso's over. Succession, Barry, and Ted Lasso all ended for me in the last 72 hours. And I'm like, fuck. Guess time to watch MASH reruns. I don't know. I've never seen MASH. I've only seen little parts of MASH. MASH was never a show when I was little that I was interested in. I don't know why. I was never interested. Maybe I'll start binge watching MASH. I don't know. But I did catch something on the new HBO Max. And as a matter of fact, I watched episode 1 of this. It's a 3-episode miniseries. I watched episode 1 of this after Barry. It was so weird because I'm watching Barry on HBO Max. Oh, sorry, it's Max now. So I'm watching Barry. And Barry ends, and then it says, it suggests other things on HBO Max for me to watch. And they're like, you should watch. It was just a weird suggestion. Like I watched Barry, and now they're suggesting that I watch this. So I watched the first episode of this miniseries on Max. And I honestly, I only watched it because I was kind of curious. I was like, I think I know this story, but I don't really know the details of this. So I'll check it out. It's a mini series on HBO Max, and it probably came from like Discovery or A&E or something. It's probably a show that was on there, but I don't have those channels. I don't watch those channels, so whatever. It's a mini series, 3 1-hour episodes, and it's called Catching a Monster. And it's Catching a Monster, Jared from Subway. You guys, I mean, we all know the Jared from Subway story. We were all shocked by it. But I was stunned by what I didn't know. But just like, okay, so before I watched this little 3-episode miniseries, finished it last night, by the way. Before I watched it, if you'd have said, hey, tell me all you know about Jared from Subway, it would have been like a drunk history retelling. I'd have been like, he's a fat guy. He ate nothing but Subway, lost all his weight. Then he had, this is what I knew. He had a business partner who ran his charity, and his business partner was making child porn, and he sent something to Jared, and they found the child porn, and now Jared's in jail. That's basically what I thought it was. I hadn't really thought. I don't remember the details. I don't remember how much of a pedophile Jared from Subway was. I just kind of thought, all right, well, he's the guy that was running his websites as a child pornography guy, and somehow it got back to him. I mean, I wasn't saying that I thought Jared was innocent. Like, I knew there was something going on with Jared, but to what extent? I had no idea. This series on HBO Max called Catching a Monster, Jared from Subway, blew my mind. You guys, first of all, do you know how he got caught? Do you know that they were trying to catch him for years and years and years? They knew who he was. The FBI for 4 years. Jared's out there doing commercials. Hey, I'm Jared from Subway. And the FBI's going, that dude rapes kids. That guy's on a Subway commercial and he rapes kids, and we just don't have anything to get him yet. We know that he's doing it. We've got the evidence. We just can't close it. And that's what happened for 4 years. This went on for years. Years. For us, it just happened one day in 2008. Breaking news, Jared from Subway's a pedophile. And we're all like, whoa, no, this story was going. Okay, so here's how it started. So Jared used to go around the country for Subway. And by the way, Jared made $15 million between 2000 and 2012. $15 million. Woo. Pretty good. So Jared's job was Subway would fly him around to different schools, and he'd talk to kids about eating healthy and Subway vegetable sandwich, all that kind of stuff. So from time to time, when he would fly into a town, he might go to a radio station. They'll come to you as a host of a radio show. Hey, you want to have Jared from Subway on? And you're like, yeah, why not? Bring him in. And he comes in. So he does this interview with this radio host in Sarasota. And then the two of them go to this school. The radio host was emceeing with Jared, Jared from Subway, going to teach the kids how not to be fat. And then he comes out with the big pants. He did this whole thing. So she's hanging out with Jared. Now, Jared was kind of into her. Jared was kind of like, I kind of, hey, you're kind of a sexy lady. So Jared was kind of flirting with this girl. And they're sitting there and they're watching all these middle schoolers. They're putting on a little routine. And Jared leans over to this DJ. Now, again, this is like 2003, maybe. Jared leans over to this DJ, and out of nowhere, Jared says to her, my God, middle school girls are so fucking hot. Wow! Like Jared says that, just like he was testing her. He was testing this woman because they had been flirting, right? And she was reciprocal. She was like, it's Jared from Subway, whatever. He's flirting with me, whatever. I'll be nice. But then he dropped that bomb, and she was like, wait a second, hold on, that's weird. And it totally freaked her out. And she ended up talking with Jared more. Like she struck up a friendship with him because he was interested in her, which, shows how complicated being pedophiles are. Because this was like a 40-year-old woman, right? And Jared was like hot for a 40-year-old woman, but also traveling to Thailand to have sex with children. We'll get to that. So this woman becomes friends with Jared, and she decides that she's going to start recording all the conversations that her and Jared have. And holy shit, you guys, Jared from Subway is a monster. He is an absolute I mean, left to his own device, he'd probably murder children. I mean, if this had gone unchecked, we are talking about, the Jimmy guy, Jimmy will fix it from England. That guy who was the child show, he was like the Captain Kangaroo of England. Turns out that for 50 years he was serial molesting children from, all over England. That's kind of like what Jared was kind of going for. He was covered by Jared from Subway, and he could go to the schools, and all the kids loved him. And holy shit! So she's got all these tapes, and like a couple of years worth of tapes, and Jared starts getting weirder and weirder, and starts demanding things. Like Jared asked her; she had 2 children, 10 and 11 years old. Jared asked her if she would let him look at her kids naked. He's flat out. We've got it on tape. We've got Jared going, so would you let me look at your kids naked? And she's like, oh, I don't know. She was playing along. She was sort of acting for him, or letting him think that she would be almost like the Ghislaine Maxwell to his little like child molestation things, because he's a big scary goof and kids don't like him. But Jared's idea was that he could use this woman, this nice mother. He could use her to sort of soften up the kids. Fucking weird. Do you want to hear some of these? Have you heard any of these Jared tapes? Have you heard Jared from Subway? Apparently Dr. Phil a couple of years ago put them all out there, but they are in this this show. If you watch, all right, so here, play some of these tapes. Boom, 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 boom. All right, so this is from a Dr. Phil episode, right? This is the woman this is the DJ from Sarasota who basically baited this trap for Jared from Subway. This is her talking to Dr. Phil. I'm gonna play some of the tapes. I won't leave a whole bunch of the Dr. Phil stuff, but I want you to hear the kind of shit that Jared said.
And I noticed when we were at the middle school was the children were so eager to talk with him and excited to be around a famous person, and I believe he used that to his advantage.
Yeah, and you were concerned that through his work and all of that, that's how he was getting access to kids, and you talked about this. Let's listen to this.
You must go crazy with your travels because you get to go into all the different schools and, all the different things like that. I want you to... I'm sure you have a lot of stories. I want you to tell me.
See, she's trying to get him on tape to say all of this stuff, and he obliges.
Some of them so that, I don't know, I like to...
Yeah, especially some in the middle school. I love the middle school when the girls are starting to get,
Yeah.
Because you know how much I love big, I love you.
Mm-hmm. Well,
what's that?
Well, kids are maturing faster nowadays.
I know, which I love. And that's what I think is wonderful with you, is that you're able to get in early. You could totally, win them over, which is what I love.
Mm-hmm. You like that?
I do love that.
Will you tell me how to do that?
Just talk to them, just get to know them, just everything, and just, do a little touchy-feely things with them, make them feel good. And it's a little more touchy-feely, a little more touchy-feely, a little more touchy-feely. And it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that would be amazing.
What
totally
age?
Amazing.
What age seems to be the easiest?
I don't know. I feel like, early middle school is probably one of the best.
Yeah.
They don't know if they're coming or going.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see you, a young, 6th, 7th grader, this.
And they'd be all right with that?
What's that?
You have to find out if they'd be all right with that?
Oh, I know they'd definitely be all right with that. They're very much into exploring, and
there's only so much that that you want to listen to. But I'm telling you, I did not know the dirty details of the whole Jared from Subway thing. And by the way, that little piece of tape that we heard right there, that's just little segment that's available on YouTube that comes from the Dr. Phil show. I can tell you that that's a piece of tape that probably Dr. Phil was able to play on his show. There was so much worse shit that Jared says on tape. I mean, right there with that, he's like, yeah, basically, I won't use the words that he used, but basically he was like, yeah, I'd love to see you do oral sex on a middle school. Right. That's what he said to her. That's what he basically just said to her on the phone. It is absolute. This dude. And then there's a whole other story about his partner, this Russell Taylor guy, the guy who ran the website, who was sort of in cahoots with him as far as creating and getting these girls. Russell Taylor, who was in charge of the Jared Foundation, the charity organization that he started. This guy, he had cameras all over his house hiding so that he could film his own stepdaughters, 10 and 11-year-old stepdaughters. Jared's partner was filming them. It's crazy. The story is so crazy. Anyway, it's on HBO Max. If you want to be disturbed but also learn something, because holy shit. All right, that's going to do it for all the things that I have actually prepared for today's show. But let's now, because what else doing? An hour and 16 minutes. All right, I started a little bit late. I started at like 5 after. So an hour and 10 minutes, let's just say. Let's see what's trending. Is there anything new? We'll go to fuck Lance Lynn. Sorry, some bad baseball news breaking across my. I don't see anything new that's trending. Oh, Pride Month. Pride Month is trending. Is this gonna be a crazy Pride Month? Can't we just have Pride Month? Can't just Pride Month be a thing? And for like a normal heterosexual dude like myself, basically affects me zero. There's like nothing that happens because it's Pride Month that I go, I can't believe I'm being so inconvenienced. I mean, it just happens. I don't care. Do you? And if you do care, I want to know why. I want to know why you care. What is that? What's going on there? So we're all, I guess, anticipating a crazy Pride Month. Not because of the crazy prideful people, but apparently, you got we're all ginned up to hate the gays again. 1975 all over again. I don't know what. It's been normalized. The idea to go, we were all for. When did being gay kind of become okay? I mean, look, it was always okay. I don't have a problem with it. But what I mean is publicly, socially, when did it become? Because I believe that in Hollywood right now, being gay is probably a benefit. Whereas it used to be a reason for you to never appear in anything. You never get any roles, you never get nothing because you were gay. Now it's almost like, oh, they're gay, let's bring them in. That happened when around 2000, I think, is when that changed, because it was in 1998 when Ellen DeGeneres came out as gay and she lost her TV show. Remember that? She had a hit TV show and she's like, I'm gay. And they went, canceled. So that was 1999. That was a perfectly acceptable response to your star announcing they were gay in 1999. Cancel their show. Perfectly acceptable. Within a couple of years, she had just transitioned to becoming from someone who ABC couldn't have on the air because she was gay and that was bad for America to 2 years later, she is the most beloved daytime talk show host since Oprah Winfrey. So that's where you have to look at when it changed, right? Sorry, the dog almost just knocked over the light. So you have to look at that time period. So that's when did she launch the Ellen DeGeneres show? Like 2002. So she lost her network show in 98. So it's that 4-year period. That 4-year period is basically when we all went, people are gay. So what? And we moved on. Now suddenly we're not that anymore. Now suddenly we're back to being gay is bad? Why? Ignore it. Why does it bother you? This is what I don't. Why are you so angry at people who are gay because June is Rainbow Month? How is this a problem? I really don't get it. It says so much about the people who have a problem with it. It says so much about what a broken piece of garbage you are. These are just leave them alone. You don't have to hang out with them. You don't have to be friends with them. You don't have to like them. But what you have to do is accept that they exist. So they're anticipating a lot of problems for Pride Month. Whoa, I'm sure there's going to be a pride parade that gets a little squirrely. Have you people ever been to a pride parade? I have been to numerous pride parades. They are awesome. They are like the crazy. Well, if you're cool, like if you're cool with people and you're just like, hey, that's a different person. Hey, look at this different person. How are you? Nice to meet you. Hey, you're not like the normal person I hang out with. If you're a cool person who's okay with that, you can have such a good time at the gay pride parade. But if you're, I don't know, Byron. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I was looking for somebody to throw under the bus, and I just always throw Byron under the bus. Maybe, you can't have a good time at a gay pride parade, but I did. First time I went to a gay pride parade, it was because my radio station was involved in it, and I went down with my my fiance at the time. She was my fiance at the time, and a whole bunch of her friends. And it was her friend, bunch of girls, bunch of chicks. And it was crazy fun. And I remember thinking, well, this ain't what I thought the gay pride parade was at all. Yes, you'll see grown men wearing leather jock straps, but so what? Stop by my house on a Wednesday. You might see that as well. All I'm saying is it's just people having fun. It's just a fun thing. So pride parades have always just been crazy street parties. And by crazy, I mean just like, oh my God, fun crazy. Not like, Charlottesville. Yeah, you know what I mean? Not like, So is there going to be problems now? Are we going to have problems? Are there going to be counter protests? Are there going to be like, 20-year-old YouTubers with interesting facial hair and red MAGA hats suddenly, joining hands throughout the middle of a parade route? What is going to happen? Are we going to have stuff? Because remember, it's all about clout. It's all about getting attention for yourself on the social media. So I imagine that this year we're going to see all kinds of things, only because we're also ramped up with the Target and the Bud Light and, stop it. What trans, gay, whatever. People are just different. As Depeche Mode said, people are people. You don't have to be friends. Look, I'm friends with nobody, okay? I'm friends with nobody. I don't want anybody coming over to my house. But I don't want you not coming over to my house because, because you're gay. I don't care. I don't care who you're sleeping with. You ain't sleeping with me. I'll tell you that much right now. I ain't sleeping with nobody. There ain't nobody. So, I don't understand what the problem is. I think that the most homophobic people I know are gay. That is something that I've always believed. That's a very real thing. The people who are super homophobic are gay, and we see it all the time. It's the projection. It's like what I said with the pedophiles earlier. It's I am this thing. I can't believe that I am this thing. My God, if somebody finds out that I am this thing, what will they say? So in order to make sure that nobody ever finds out that I am this thing, and so as not to reveal that I am this thing, I'm going to hate this thing. And I'm going to be the one who tells everybody that this thing is terrible. That's projection. That's what people do. So, your biggest homophobic friend out there, ask them. Just be like, what's going on with you, man? Why is this such a thing for you? Why are you so adamant about deflecting? What's going? When was the last time you had a girlfriend? It's projection. Projection. We all do it. It's not just for the gay thing. It's for racists. A lot of racists project. The people go, but that guy's a racist. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. I've went through your stream. I went through your timeline. I've seen some things that you posted. You're obviously just projecting. I don't give a shit about Pride Month, and neither should you, right? What about Pride Month? Now, do we have a problem with Black History Month? Was that a problem this year? I don't think so. I think that's the next one. That's the next one they'll come after. Right now, they're going to get the gays. The gays are going to be the ones. Gay Mexicans too, right? They don't like Mexicans, but Mexicans aren't Mexicans running a lot of these groups. Didn't we learn that? Aspirational whiteness. Isn't that something we learned today? Brown people. It's brown people, gays. Democrats in general, so it's basically just anyone that doesn't own a red hat. I think those are the people that we're supposed to hate. Let's see. What else do we got here? Let me see. Shane Bieber's trending, but that's because it's his birthday. He's trending. Shane Bieber's a pitcher. He used to be really good. I don't know if he's really good anymore. I don't know. Let's see here. Let's go on Google Trends. Let's see what's happening on Google right now. Let's see what the number one thing being Google Trends. Let's see what the number one thing trending on all the Googles right now is. What is it? Number one, trending now. What is the big story in the world? Should we go world or should we go you? Let's go world. Oh, man. Yeah, look at this. But this can't be real. This can't be the number one thing trending on Google at the moment. Ted Lasso? I just mentioned Ted Lasso. Is it over? 5 great moments from Ted Lasso finale. Now, are you going to? Is this a series finale or the season finale? Ted Lasso had a bit of a bumpy third season. Boy, did it ever! I said that a couple weeks ago. There were moments in this season of Ted Lasso where I was like, season 1 of Ted Lasso is probably the greatest single season of television I've ever seen. That is just a masterpiece of television, season 1. Season 2 had a lot to live up to. It didn't. Season 2 was fine. Season 2 was a good season of TV. Season 1 was special. Season 3, I found myself forgetting to watch it. I mean, I used to love this. It was my favorite show based on the accomplishments of season 1. Season 3, I start watching season 3. I'm like, oh my God, we're like 3 episodes in. I'm like, this sucks. What the hell is going on? And it lost. I don't know. It just seems so, I don't know. It started to become a parody of itself. Would be the best way that I could describe season 3 of Ted Lasso. But I certainly didn't expect the final episode of this season to be the final episode. Ugh. And there was a dance number. They had a dance number in the final episode of Ted Lasso. A fucking dance number. I'm like, this is so stupid. So you know what? Maybe I'm not upset that it's gone. I'm upset that I'll never see season 1 for the first time again. I'm upset about that. I don't know. Maybe I'm not upset that it's gone. Okay, so here's some of the things that were revealed in the final episode. Roy asked to become a diamond dog. If you're not familiar with Ted Lasso, this doesn't mean anything to you. That's a big moment. It's a big moment when Roy Kent actually asked the boys if he could join their group being the Diamond Dogs. Let's see here. Rebecca asked Ted to stay. That was okay. Remember that. The team reassembles the sign. The Believe sign. You know what? People don't watch Ted Lasso. I'm the only person on the planet that apparently watches this show, or at least the only person in this chat room that watches it. No, I'm not going to stop talking about it. I don't play your fucking spoiler games, Adam. If you didn't see it, then go away. But I'm not going to play. This is a show that is going to exist forever. It's aired. It's up there. It airs on Wednesday or Tuesday nights. People saw it. People are talking about it. Do you want to call NPR? Because that's who put out this 5 great moments from the Ted Lasso finale. I'm not going to stop talking about it. This spoiler thing is so narcissistic. Fuck you. Fuck that you haven't seen it yet. Go somewhere and watch it and then come back. I'm not going to stop the world because Adam hasn't seen the Ted Lasso finale yet. Hey, guess what? Roy becomes the coach. That was mean. I shouldn't have spoiled it. Roy Kent becomes the new coach of AFC Richmond. And AFC Richmond, do they win the Premier League? Oh, I won't ruin that for you. Stop. Of course I'm going to talk about it. You can go away. Sorry, rainy days. You can go away too. This fucking spoiler thing is nonsense. Go away. Watch it when it airs or go away. You come back whenever you want. But right now, I'm talking about something that aired in real time that people who like it watched. Jesus, don't spoil it. Hey, Sixth Sense. He's been dead the whole time. Did I spoil it for you? I'm sorry if you haven't seen The Sixth Sense yet. So the team reassembled the Believe sign. It's another one here. Jamie passes the ball. All right. This was stupid. This was a dumb NPR article. See what happens when I do things that I'm not prepared for? I prepared the show ahead of time. The bulk of the show is all stuff that I've already vetted. The end of the show here where I'm just, why is the Ultimate Fighter trending? I don't care about that. Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is trending. It's because Rosalind and her dementia. God love her. I got nothing. There's nothing else happening here. There's nothing happening in the world. Leslie Van Houten is up for parole. Leslie Van Houten. You know who she is? She's one of the Manson family people. She's up for parole. I'm guessing she's not going to get it. Hey, you know whose birthday it is today that we didn't mention because the birthday segment today took like an hour. We had a very special guest for the first, for the erstwhile on happy birthdays and these other people who died. Do we care? We had a special guest for that portion of the show today. E, who typically joins us on the 9 o'clock show. He hung out with us and man, it went on for like an hour and a half. It was like, we were like 2 hours and we're still in birthdays. So I had to skip. I actually skipped over some things. Chris Elliott. Chris Elliott's his birthday today. I love Chris. He's trending right now. Chris Elliott is, he was a writer on David Letterman. That's where he started. He was a comedy writer on David Letterman back in the 80s. And he became sort of the sidekick, not the sidekick, but he became sort of like, he would do bits and sketches. Most famously, the guy under the steps, which was so funny. I don't know if that's funny now. Is that funny now? Or was it funny because it was 1983 and it was so weird? The premise was that David Letterman was doing a show in this studio and there was a guy who lived under the stairs. And it would just, every now and again, David would be like, all right, coming up on the show tonight, we've got, wait, what's that? What's going on? What? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's the guy under the stairs. There you go. And then out of the stairs would come Chris Elliott and he'd do a bit. And they were always so funny. I wonder if that stuff's still funny. I don't know. Chris Elliott was great. Chris Elliott had a daughter who was great. Chris Elliott is Abby Elliott's father. Abby Elliott's a writer, trying to be a showrunner now. She's got a couple of shows that are on the air. She's also a performer. She's a terrific performer. Abby Elliott was again, she started out as a writer on Saturday Night Live. She was quickly elevated to the cast because she's cute, she's pretty, and she's super talented. But I don't know what happened with Abby Elliott. Abby Elliott, like, disappeared. She left the show out of her own accord. I believe. I think that's the story that I read. She wanted to do other things. She had only been on the show for like a year or two, but she was very good in the stuff that she did. Angelina Jolie. I think Angelina Jolie was the character that I remember her doing. You know who Abby Elliott has kind of been replaced by? And there was a couple year gap in the middle, but it's the same kind of character is this Chloe Fineman, who's on SNL now. She reminds me of Abby Elliott. It's like, I'm like, oh, okay, Lorne Michaels got his Abby Elliott back because he just went and got himself a Chloe Fineman. Anyway, it's Chris Elliott's birthday. What was the show he had? Get a Life. Do you remember the show Get a Life? It was on Fox and nobody watched it because it was hysterical and like really edgy funny, but nobody watched it. Chris Elliott, Get a Life. He was basically a grown-ass man who refused to leave his parents' house. And he lived in his parents' house. And it was very funny. Chris Elliott also, it should be noted, is the son of Bob Elliott. Bob Elliott, famously of the Bob and Ray team. Bob and Ray were probably the most famous radio team in the history of radio before, the 1970s or whatever. They were big. Bob and Ray were huge radio stars. Chris Elliott was Bob's son. Abby Elliott is Bob's granddaughter. So there you go. Nepotism. I'm telling you, man, the business. You got to everybody wants to be famous. You got to know somebody to get, cut in line. Either that or you got to have really, really great amounts of talent, undeniable talent. And in addition to having really undeniable talent, you have to be lucky. Luck plays a big part in it. We got a basketball game tonight. Is there a basketball game tonight? I don't know. All right, I got nothing else, folks. That's it. We are out of stuff to talk about. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. It was a supersized show. Usually about 2 hours, but I give you a bigger one today. Here's why I give you a bigger one. My Friday show is going to be short. Friday show is going to be really short. Friday show maybe an hour. Friday show may even be less than an hour. However, Friday show might be an hour from 12 to 1, and then it might pick up again at 1:30. It's going to be truncated. I have a meeting. Luckily, it is a meeting that I can do via the internet and the webs. I have a meeting at 1 o'clock. Parker and I are meeting with somebody. So Friday show, I'm going to end at probably 12:55. So we'll get started. We'll run through all that stuff. Then I got to go do this meeting. And then I'm thinking there's no reason why I can't jump right back in. So I know it's going to be a little bit different kind of a scenario there on Friday. But if you bear with me, we'll promise we'll get those shows out to you. I think that's going to do it. That's going to do it. I got nothing else. Tip the show if you can. That would be a great thing to see today, because the show's in a lot of trouble and we're in the last day of the month. So if you can drop us a little something in the Venmo would be preferable. Venmo is preferable at this point. Having some problems with the Cash App, but whatever. Hey, any port in the storm, we appreciate the support. Venmo, Cash App, however you want to do it. Go ahead and drop it right there. You'll see it there at the bottom of the screen. Thank you. Help us get through this month, because we ain't there. We're about 250 short. We're about 250 short with 24 hours to go. So anything that anybody can do to help tip us to get us closer to that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. By the way, Al, my guy Al, who's always so kind and so nice. Hold on. Let me just say something here. So last night I told you, we started the show by saying, man, look, I'm a complicated mess of an individual. That's why I think I'm best suited to just be alone and do a show from a closet. I think this is kind of the best scenario for me. It's not that I'm a jerk or that I'm mean to people. I think I'm loving and caring, and I think the people who do come into my orbit, I think they think I'm a nice guy. But I'm not great. There are certain times when things happen and I don't know who I am. Like I'm not crazy. It's depression. I'm talking about depression. I'm just trying not to use the stupid words that we always use. And I've been going through kind of a thing. This is not anything that anyone needs to be alarmed about. This is the same thing that I've gone through cyclically since, 12 years old. And I know how to handle it. I mean, I perfectly know how to handle it, and I know what I need to do to handle it. So it's been a bad couple of days. And by the way, here's how this works, folks. This is what people don't understand. Well, what happened? It made you feel this way. Nothing happened. Nothing happens. This is brain chemistry. Now, luckily, people who don't have these issues, they have no way to comprehend it. They're like, what do you mean you're just sad? What do you mean you just feel like giving up? What happened? What did you lose your job? Did your wife cheat on? No, none of those things. Chris Cornell was a freaking rock star with a gorgeous supermodel wife and a 12-year-old daughter who he thinks he hung the moon. And he did a sold-out show in New York City, went back to his hotel room and killed himself. That was a guy who didn't know how to deal with it. That was a guy who didn't know how to handle it. So, it's not a matter of like, what went wrong? It's just cyclical. And I am very good. I'm very good at sort of going into my own shell and kind of becoming my own person, dealing with my own shit. Sometimes if that means that I just need to go dark and away from everybody for 48 hours, which I understand that for the people who love me, that's scary, because it's like, well, what is he going to hang himself or something? I can tell that is not in the cards for me. So I try to let people know that all the time. That's not in the cards for everybody who suffers from depression. It's a possibility, I suppose, but no, there's like, I've got a 14-year-old son, and that's why the Chris Cornell thing always, I'm like, how does he do that with a 12-year-old? I couldn't do that. Couldn't do it to my mom. So, knowing that about my situation here, depression, I have developed ways through years of therapy and other best practices. I've come up with ways that I can handle it. And I do apologize for the times when I don't handle it well. I apologize for the times when what occurred last night, this was not a big deal. Nothing big happened last night. What happened was I quit. What happened was, in the middle of all of these things happening, I felt completely overwhelmed. And instead of hitting go live and doing a show last night at 9:00, I said, fuck this, fuck you to everybody, and just went, I quit, I'm done, goodbye. And I think that that's one of the reasons why Emil called at the beginning of the show, because we hadn't talked since last night, since I had this kind of, you know what, sometimes you just need to clear the chamber, I think. Sometimes you just need to just erupt and get it all out. And then you're very angry for a period of time in my case, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And then you calm down, and then you relax and you realize that maybe you've got some apologies to make. That maybe you need. And again, I don't need to apologize to people because I was like, you're fat and you're stupid and I don't want to be your friend. No, I didn't get aggressively mean to anybody, but I was short and I got caught up in my own feelings and I got caught up in my own emotion. And I criticize people all the time for being emotional infants. Emotional immaturity is a big thing for me. Well, sometimes, I just got to be a little emotionally immature. And last night, that's what happened. And I apologize for that. Now, I bring that up because a number of people last night reached out to me in very kind ways, whether it was someone texting, someone calling me, hey man, let's talk. And that's what they say you're supposed to do. If you have a friend who deals with these things, and believe it or not, you do. You do. I mean, at the very least, me. I mean, but you do. You have friends in your real life who deal with this. It's just they don't talk about it. It's not something that is discussed because until very recently, we didn't live in a society where these were the kind of things that you could comfortably discuss. But you do. You have people who go through this. And we're always taught that when you're around, I mean, it's always too late, right? It's always, you find out that your friend did something that they can't take back. And you're like, oh, if they had just reached out to me, oh, if I had only known. So we've been conditioned to reach out. We've been conditioned to say, hey, I'm here if you want to talk. I'm here if you want to do that. And a number of people did that last night. Al was one of the people who did that. I don't know Al. Al and I know each other because of this. Al and I, this is Al and my relationship. Al was one of a couple people who sent me very nice messages. And they said, hey, man, if you ever want to talk, I'm here. And I cannot tell you how lovely that is. How just the I didn't respond and we ain't talking. No offense, Al. But that's just not how I process. But we are all sort of told to do that, to reach out to people. And there are people who maybe process all of this differently. And when someone reaches out to them, they're able to talk about it and they want to get into it. And that's not me. That's not me. I use different things. I use actualization and a couple of other things that I've learned in therapy, and it always gets me back to where I need to be. The sun also rises. That's always good. That's how you need to look at it. But I did want to take a moment and thank Al, who I just saw pop up here. He sent me a nice note. A lot of people sent me a nice note. My buddy Kevin sent me a nice note. Kevin, who I haven't hung out with in 30 years. You get these nice notes because people can tell. They're like, oh man, something's going on with Pugs. I hate when I refer to myself in the third person. But here I am. And I wanted to apologize for that last night. And how is this happening? Sorry. So thank you. Thank you to everybody. And we're okay. I'm okay. I'm fine. I mean, I promise you I'm fine. I am so good at dealing with this. As a matter of fact, I often think do you ever think how I wish you could go to college at 45 instead of going to college at 20. Wouldn't it be good to really learn the shit that you need to learn to lead a happy life at 45 instead of when you're 22? When you're 22 or when you're 20 years old and you're going to college and you're choosing a major, you don't know anything about the world. You have no idea what you want to do with your life. But by the time you get to be 45, you're like, you know what? I would have made a really good brain surgeon. Why didn't I go to brain surgery school? And it's too late. I think about that. I think about I would love to be a psychiatrist. That's something, even a counselor. Let's be honest. I'm probably not going to make it all the way through medical school. But even like a counselor, I'd love to work. I'd love to work with other people who have depression and just I don't have any skills. I'm not qualified, and I'm qualified in that I can handle myself, and we're all individuals. So what works for me may not work for you, but I was thinking about that last night. I was like, you know what? I'd really wish that I could do it all over again. I wouldn't have wasted this time on this dying format, this dying genre of radio. But I do love it. And I do love you guys. And thank you very much. Again, apologize for last night. We're going to be back tonight. Tonight's going to be fine. Like nothing happened. That's the key. Make sure that you make amends to the people in your immediate universe that you may have upset. Make sure that you address that something happened and that you were probably not the best friend in that moment. Make sure that those people are taken care of. And then after that, fucking move on, man. Next. You move on to the next thing. And I think I've done that. I probably should apologize to Ed. Got snippy with Ed. But in all fairness, Ed got snippy with me too. So we were snippy with each other, and that's what friends of 30 years are allowed to do, right? But I apologize to you. And thank you, Al, for being the reason that I got off on this little tangent here. You guys are the best. We did a super long show, almost 4 hours, 3.5 hours. Who says you need commercial breaks? Haven't gone to the bathroom. You got like a full thing of coffee here. All right, now I got to go do stuff. Now I got a lot of stuff to do. Pressure. Love you guys. See you tonight at 9 o'clock for more. That's right. We do that stream Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central. It's Pugs and Parker with E. I'm still going to keep inviting Key because I like Key around. I want to keep Key around. That'll happen tonight at 9 o'clock. No screw-ups like last night. And I'm in a much better place. The eruption clears the chamber and you're able to begin anew. Tip the show if you can. We'd appreciate that. Venmo, Cash App. That helps us get through. It's the end of the month. We're dying here. We'll see you tonight at 9 o'clock. Love you guys. Bye. I can smile a little now. Things are going good. I always had to be on guard. That is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. Oh, hold on. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm going through the chat room here. Is it Leslie? Leslie I hope Leslie's not gone. Is Leslie gone? Because I want to know what she's talking about. Leslie says here in the chat room, I haven't watched any of it. Would you still recommend it? If she is talking about Ted Lasso, then yes, I would absolutely recommend it because you get to start with season 1, episode 1, and it is terrific. The first season is unbelievable. The very idea that it drops off a little bit in the second season, well, that's to be expected. I mean, it's hard to repeat as district champs, if you know what I mean. So yes, I would still recommend it. It's fine. It's fine. It's 3 seasons. It's an easy watch. It's like 30 episodes. You could watch it over the course of a couple weeks. It's fine. It's better than most TV, but that first season had some pretty lofty expectations. Okay, bye again.